Thursday, July 31st, and we will call this meeting to order. Director Todd, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Looks like we were still having technical difficulties. My apologies. Roll call. Commissioner Bennett,
Present.
Commissioner Daniels,
Present.
Commissioner Esparza,
Present.
Commissioner Harrison momentarily, Commissioner Lewis, Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Present.
and Commissioner Udali.
Present.
And Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. All right, next, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, there are none.
As there are no amendments to the agenda, looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Support.
Thank you. All in support of approving the agenda as presented, indicate your support with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. In opposition, sign of nay. There are no nays. The agenda has been presented. Next, we have the meeting minutes for March 20th, 2025. Looking for a motion to approve those meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do we have a second?
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. All in support of approving the March 20, 2025 meeting minutes, indicate with a sign of aye.
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 Aye. In opposition, sign of nay. There are no nays. The March 20, 2025 meeting minutes have been approved. Next, I want to call the 515 public hearing. This is a zoning ordinance text amendment, Chapter 50 of the 2019 Detroit City Code to update regulations, procedures, and definitions relative to housing and parking requirements as requested by the Office of the City of Detroit Chief Operating Officer. Yes, Director Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we have before you a public hearing that was provided to you via informational presentation at your last meeting. This is the opportunity now to formally begin the process of pursuing those amendments that were presented to you again at your last meeting. We are joined by a full team of our colleagues from across the city. We are joined by the COO, Marcus Von Kopp, who will lead off our discussion, the Deputy CO, Andrea Tavener, who will be leading, who will be the primary presenter, and then, of course, Director of Building and Safety Engineering, Mr. Bell. All right. And again, a host of others who will also introduce themselves, who are also in the audience here as subject matter experts, as may be warranted, who will join us here at the table behind us on the outer ring. So without further introductions, let me turn it to the COO and allow him to make his opening remarks.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you, Director Todd. So good evening, esteemed members of the City Planning Commission. I'm Marcus Von Kopp, Chief Operating Officer for the city. We've come back to CPC this evening to do a comprehensive deep dive on 4 zoning recommendations, all of which are aimed to increase housing supply as the city grows, while allowing residents and local developers to participate in that growth in their own neighborhoods. So we'll also address your questions from the previous meeting. So I thank you for your time and the opportunity to present this evening. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy COO, Ms. Andi Taverna.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And thank you so much to the commissioners and the public for your time this evening. We've touched on this momentarily, but I wanted to remind particularly the members of the public who are listening today of where we stand in the process before we launch into the presentation. As has been alluded to, we were here on July 17th for an informal informational presentation to the commissioners. We are back today for a formal public hearing. We do not anticipate that the commission will take action on any of these recommendations today. We anticipate spending the month of August doing continued community engagement around these changes and returning to the commission in September. So for members of the public, I just wanted to emphasize this is a lengthy conversation we'll all be having together, and we're still closer to the beginning of the conversation than the end. So, the ordinance before this commission today has 2 goals: increasing housing supply to reduce upward pressure on housing costs in Detroit, and ensuring that Detroit residents and small local developers are leading the charge to build more housing here in the city. So throughout the presentation, you'll hear me refer back to those North Stars and explain how each and every one of the 4 areas of change we're looking at support those goals. To start off on the first component, housing supply, Detroit needs to build more housing to reduce the upward pressure on housing costs in the city, to protect longtime residents in the city from the risk of rising costs and potentially displacement. Detroit now leads the state in population growth, adding nearly 7,000 residents last year, but growth in our housing stock did not keep up. That's a challenge because if housing is scarce, there's more competition for the housing, which can push the price up, and that creates a real risk for our longtime residents. So we're here today trying to get ahead of the curve on that challenge. And the numbers before this commission are that we anticipate roughly 2,700 to 3,500 units of housing are needed per year. Detroit's been creating on average 1,600, so we believe that at least 1,100 more units per year are needed. We know what happens in cities that do not build enough housing to serve their population. As I said before, there's more competition for limited homes that drives up prices and rents, and families who can't afford those rents are at risk of displacement. We've seen this happen in many cities around the country, and Detroit's here trying to be ahead of the curve versus responding reactively. We're going to talk a lot about reducing upward pressure on housing costs, so I wanted to take a moment to illustrate what that means. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see just a very simple illustration of the red line shows rental inflation of 5% per year. The green line shows rental inflation of 3% per year. And as you can see, that sounds like a relatively small difference, but it compounds over time to the point where the end result is quite different. So small changes in the annual rate of rental inflation can add up to real differences in Detroiters' rent. Dozens of cities around the country are facing the same kinds of housing pressures that we see here in Detroit, and even more severe pressures. I told you when I was last before you that dozens of cities around the country, including those in Michigan and the Midwest, have made zoning changes to make it easier to build more housing. And the results they've seen from those changes are exactly what we would have expected. More homes being built in those communities and slower rates of rent growth, as you can see on the slide before you. So I wanted to turn now to our second goal here, which is evening the playing field for small local developers and residents who are interested in building in the city. Detroit's current zoning rules are highly complicated and ultimately relatively restrictive on what can be built in the city. That puts residents and small developers at a real disadvantage compared to larger and more sophisticated developers. Big developers can afford to hire consultants, attorneys, architects. They have the resources to navigate these complicated rules and to get through lengthy and complicated city processes to seek special approvals or exemptions. In contrast, smaller or newer developers, who, by the way, are often working in the neighborhoods, don't have the same resources and may struggle to ultimately get through this maze and get approval of their projects. So the changes before you today are intended to even the playing field. With no further ado, the 4 changes we are here to speak about are first, expanding the types of housing that can be built in R2 districts. Second, making it easier to rebuild houses on vacant lots. Third, and this is new to the commission since the July 17th presentation, allowing multifamily buildings by right on commercial corridors. And fourth, offering more flexibility on the size of parking lots. So we'll take each of those in turn, explaining specifically what policy would be changed, the rationale and data behind the approach, and then tying it back to how it helps Detroit residents and small local developers in the city. Starting with the first policy, expanding the types of housing that are permissible by right in R2 zones. So before you is a map of the R2 zones in the city. As you can see, very heavily spread throughout districts 4, 5, 6, as well as smaller pockets in districts 3 and 2. These are the denser residential areas of the city. They account for 34% of our residential parcels, and fully half of these parcels are vacant land. Before our current zoning rules took effect, it was very common to build triplexes, fourplexes, and townhouses in these districts. In fact, there are over 900 of these buildings in R2 zones, fully half of them in the city total. Our current rules, however, require conditional use approval, which is special approval from the city to be able to build that type of housing. Our proposal is very simple: allow these types of housing that already exist in the neighborhoods to be built again by right. So you can see at the bottom here in R2 zones, currently only single-family homes or duplexes are permitted by right, and our proposal is to allow by right 3-unit buildings, 4-unit buildings, or townhouses. Now you might ask what this would look like. And again, the answer is very simple. It looks a lot like the houses that you pass every day in your neighborhood, because again, 900 of these units of these buildings, are spread throughout R2 districts in the city. The second component of this recommendation would be increasing the number of units that could be requested conditionally in R2 zones. Conditional zoning allows certain homes to be built only after a public hearing is held where the neighbors have an opportunity to weigh in. Currently in R2 zones, projects can seek up to 8 units. Our proposal here is allowing projects to seek up to 12 units. I want to emphasize this would remain conditional, so residents would have an opportunity to weigh in, but we'd like to give some flexibility for projects to be able to request 4 more units and have residents weigh in on that. This would be limited to 2 to 3 stories tall, which is on par with the single-family homes in these zoning districts. And then again, playing the hits here, there are dozens of these buildings already in R2 districts, so the theme is returning to the types of housing that was previously built in the districts. So returning to our second goal, how would this change help residents and small local developers? The first way it does is it creates more opportunities for infill housing projects, particularly the types of projects that may occur in the neighborhoods. It simply gives more flexibility on what is possible. The second is that it creates more opportunities for rehabilitation projects. Under this proposal, for example, someone could take a very large and vacant single-family home. You can imagine some of those, especially on the boulevard, for example. They could take that and convert it not just into a single-family home, but into a 3 to 4 unit building, which may make some rehab projects more financially viable. The third is that it creates diverse options for ownership, for example, owning a unit in a condominium building. Moving now to the second change, which is making it easier to rebuild vacant lots in line with existing neighborhoods. Zoning sets rules on sizing and spacing of homes that make it pretty difficult to rebuild on a vacant lot, and many projects that are trying to do so ultimately need to seek a variance from the city, which is again a special approval process. It can require architects and consultants. It can add up to quite a bit of time and money to get through this process. That's why we'd like to make it easier. As background here, 85% of the vacant lots in the city are below the minimum size needed to rebuild any kind of housing. There are several code provisions that do offer flexibility for lots below minimum size, allowing them to be rebuilt, but the options for rebuilding are extremely narrow. You can only rebuild a single-family home. The setback requirements make the buildable area very small, so the maximum width of that single-family home is 19.5 feet, which is quite narrow for a home. And you have to string together several different code provisions that make it relatively complicated for development professionals to navigate and for city staff to administer. So our proposal, again, is simple. Make it easier to rebuild on vacant lots by allowing sizing and spacing of homes that more closely aligns with houses that already exist in the neighborhoods. You can see on the left-hand side of the slide, existing homes, kind of legacy homes in Detroit that mirror the type of sizing requirements being proposed. And on the right-hand side, you can see newly built homes that mirror those types of sizing requirements. So getting even further into the details here, where would this change apply? This is drafted to be a citywide change that applies to lots below minimum size or width. So I want to emphasize that. There are some neighborhoods that have lots above the minimum size or width. Those are unaffected by this change. This has the most impact in R2 through R6 districts, and the reason for that is that the single biggest change here is allowing any type of housing that is permissible to be built in that district to be built on these relatively smaller lots. So of course that impacts R2 and above, that does not impact R1. You can see on the bottom of the slide here, the differences in the current, these current requirements are what you could achieve through flexibilities in various zoning code provisions on one of these lots. The right-hand side is what we're proposing. As you can see, we're offering flexibility, but it is incremental and relatively modest. So this is a relatively tailored proposal that tries to make it easier to rebuild, while also keeping in line with the homes that exist in that neighborhood. The last item that I want to emphasize here is, again, in regards to applicability. Historic district review will continue to apply in all designated historic districts. So regardless of what setbacks we propose in this change, the Historic District Commission will have the final say on whether a project with those setbacks is appropriate to the district. So I really want to emphasize in historic districts, the Historic District Commission has the final say on whether a project is appropriate or not. So what would this look like? Again, it would look a lot like the houses that you see every day. So we have a beautiful duplex here in Virginia Park Community and a single family home in Gresham Woods. Last but not least, I want to tie this back again to the second goal of the proposal. How does this change help residents and small local developers take advantage of the opportunities of Detroit's growth? The first is, of course, it makes it easier to rebuild on vacant lots. That's the primary goal here, by reducing the likelihood of requiring an expensive and lengthy variance process. So every time I say variance, I hope what it triggers in your mind is an expectation that there are thousands of dollars of costs that may entail. There are months' worth of work. So we really don't want small local developers looking to do infill projects to have to go through that lengthy and expensive process. The final point to flag is that over 26,000 side lots have been sold to Detroit residents since 2014. 99% of those can be rebuilt by the resident at will. So there are many Detroit residents who own land in the city and could find it easier to rebuild on that land if they wanted to through this proposal. That's one of the key goals here. Moving on to our third proposal. So following the July 17th informal informational presentation, CPC staff and the administration continued our conversations about the shape of this package and where there were potential additional opportunities to add to it. And one of those opportunities that Commissioner Director Todd raised to our attention is allowing multifamily dwellings by right on B2, B4, and B5 districts. This builds on a change that was recommended by this commission in the 6th General Text Amendment, which was specifically making mixed-use projects by right in most business districts. Mixed-use projects, of course, require a commercial or an industrial first floor with residential above. The change here would be allowing a residential-only building, so a multifamily building including residential or non-commercial uses on the first floor. The rationale, of course, is that allowing apartment-only buildings gives different options and it may facilitate more housing projects on the commercial corridors. It also offers kind of a broader vision for what mixed use means. So a mixed use building has a mixing of uses within one building. If we allow residential buildings alongside commercial buildings, that also allows mixed use simply across the corridor. It's a different way of thinking about the concept of mixed use. Last but not least, more residents on the corridors equals more small business customers, more activity, and more thriving commercial corridors. So we really appreciate CPC staff's partnership on this. We think this is a strong addition to the package because it fits with the goals and it also fits with many other parts of the proposal. So these buildings already exist in B2, B4, and B5 districts. You can see the numbers here on the slide in front of you. And on the right-hand side, we have two examples, LaSalle Gardens, that's a multifamily in a B4, and McDougall Hunt, it's a multifamily in a B2. Last but not least, the final area of change that we're looking for is around giving more flexibility on the size of parking lots, again, to help facilitate more home building. Our current zoning rules often require that each building have a large parking lot. The challenge that creates is that the land and money used to build the parking lot directly reduce what is available to be used for housing. Every 2 parking spaces is roughly the size of a one-bedroom housing unit. So you have a direct trade-off there on the use of the land. Similarly, every parking space costs about $8,000 to build on average. That's for surface parking spaces. And the reason we care about that is that that cost gets passed on to Detroit residents. So research shows that this gets baked into residents' rent. We estimate that it raises rent by $400 a year, and that's particularly challenging for the 1 in 3 Detroit families who don't have a car. So they may have a disability, they may be a senior, they may not be interested in having a car, but their rent absolutely includes the cost of building large parking lots with our housing. Finally, some parcels of land simply can't be developed if the parking lot cannot fit. So what are we looking to do about it? We'd like to give projects moderately more flexibility on the size of parking lots. You'll hear as I go through the specific policies here that these are incremental changes offering moderately more flexibility. The idea is giving projects more choices based on their location, their clientele, what specific activities occur there. And I want to emphasize that these are minimum parking lot requirements. So projects can still build absolutely as many parking spaces as they feel that they need. And we've seen that projects often do go well above the minimums. Cities that have made much bigger changes around their parking policies have seen that as well. The last component to flag here is we're looking to expand policies that only apply in certain areas of the city. There are a lot of parking flexibilities in Midtown and some of our growing commercial corridors. In those areas, these policies have successfully fostered more housing and small businesses. So I feel that development in the neighborhoods should be held to the same kinds of standards as development in Midtown and some of our other growing commercial corridors. So where they have successful policies, I'd love to see that applied to other parts of the city as well. So parking is the only area of this proposal that has broader impacts than just housing. So we're going to walk through this first with policies that have primary impacts on residential projects, and then policies that do have more impact for small businesses. So we do see opportunities here to help Detroit's commercial corridors, again, especially in the neighborhoods. So I want to be first up front with the Commission that there are small business focused policies here, and to clarify how we'll be going through them. So starting with the residentially focused policies. The first policy would provide additional flexibility on the size of parking lots in areas near frequent transit. So currently, BSeed is able to waive up to 20% of the parking lot size, or 10 spaces, whichever is less. Our proposal is allowing a waiver of up to 30%, or 20 parking spaces, whichever is less, within 0.5 miles of frequent transit. So we're seeking a waiver that is 10 percentage points greater, or 10 parking spaces greater. This applies to a number of different uses that you can see listed on the slide. We do anticipate that it has the most impact for residential projects. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide a case study about the impacts here. This is the Ruth Ellis Claremont Center. It's at Woodward and Claremont, right next to the Woodward bus and the Claremont bus. It would require a 54-space parking lot under our baseline code that was discounted to 32 spaces because it is near frequent transit. They went to the BZA seeking to build 21 spaces. So again, months-long process, very expensive process, seeking to change that by 11 parking spaces. Under our proposal, their parking lot, which is shown on the slide here, would be allowed by right because the project is near frequent transit. Wanted to show the Commission here a map of high-frequency transit corridors. These are DDOT bus routes that run between 10 to 20-minute headways. You can see here the light pink shading is half a mile distance from those routes. The darker purple shading is quarter-mile distance from those routes. You can see lots of applicability in the greater downtown and the areas closest to the riverfront, as well as 7 and 8 mile, because those are both frequent routes, and less applicability in the less dense parts of the city. The second residentially focused policy here would make it easier for projects to propose alternative plans where that makes sense based on what they are building. Right now, projects can propose alternative plans to BSeed, but they require a special land use hearing, so again, a special city approval of that plan. And we don't know of any case where a developer has tried to use this provision. So the provision is in the code, but it's not really workable. What we're proposing to make it feasible is to allow review and decision on alternative parking plans through BSEED's building permit review. This would only apply to certain land uses. Again, we think this is primarily a residential policy. And the alternatives that a project could propose could include a smaller parking lot than what's otherwise required, bike parking, rideshare drop-offs, scooters for folks who are a lot younger than I am, and many other alternatives, depending on what exact project is being built. Our example here is La Jolla Gardens. Again, this is an affordable housing project right on West Verner, very near Clark Park, and many other amenities, supermarkets, restaurants, etc. Our current code required 40 spaces. You can see here a photo on a recent weeknight, about half of that was filled. So the proposal would have allowed La Jolla Gardens to propose an alternative plan for how to meet their transportation needs. Maybe it didn't necessarily include quite as many parking spaces as what they had to build. So shifting now into policies that have somewhat greater impact on small businesses. The next policy we'd like to talk about is flexibility for small buildings. So under the current code, structures under 3,000 square feet and built before 1998 do not have a parking lot requirement. We would like to expand that up to structures under 6,000 square feet built any year. As I mentioned, this applies to both residential and commercial, but the most buildings impacted would be small commercial spaces. And you can see here on this slide a couple examples of what a building between 3,000 and 6,000 square feet looks like. Bottom left here, this is a quad in Woodbridge, grandfathered into not having a parking lot. This is an older building, of course. On the right-hand side, this is Detroit Pizza Bar up on McNichols. They went to the BZA seeking a variance to build, to not have a parking lot. As you can see, there's not space for a parking lot on the parcel that they're looking to redevelop, so they do rely on on-street spaces there. These next two policies are relatively more technical, so bear with me. The first is around a discount for small spaces, and the second is around district approaches to parking. So these two policies right now are flexibilities that are available in land-zoned SD1 or SD2, that's a lot of Midtown, and then in traditional Main Street overlay areas. Those are overlays that are placed on a lot of our growing commercial corridors. So these are some flexibilities available in certain areas of the city. We've seen them be successful, so we're looking to expand them outward. The first policy here is that first floor pedestrian-oriented spaces that are under 3,000 square feet, but in a building larger than 3,000 square feet, so these are first floor spaces in mixed-use buildings, the size of that first floor space is subtracted from the total building square footage for the purpose of calculating the applicable parking requirement. You can see here on the right just a simple rendering of what these first floor spaces look like. I expect they're very familiar to commissioners. And our proposal would be to expand this policy to apply to frequent transit corridors, so the same map I showed previously, not just the areas where it currently applies. Finally, last but not least, there's another policy that applies in these specific areas that we're looking to expand citywide, which is specifically commercial uses can offer parking within 1,320 feet. That is a quarter mile, roughly a 5-minute walk, rather than the typical 100-foot distance, which is essentially immediately adjacent to the building. The idea here is that this facilitates a district approach to parking. So it allows one parking lot to serve multiple businesses. It's more efficient for the commercial corridor. A really beneficial side effect of this is that it would allow some new municipal parking lots near growing commercial corridors that the city built to be more impactful by serving more of the businesses there. So finally, last piece on parking is, again, just returning to one of our North Stars here, the goals of this package. How do these changes help residents and small local developers? First is this allows more land and funding to be used for housing or for small business projects instead of building parking lots. Second is that this reduces a key barrier to many projects. So parking lot issues are the second most common reason the projects go to the BZA for a variance. And the third is that it gives Detroit residents more options based on their needs. I mentioned this before. There are some Detroiters who don't have a car because they have a disability. They're a senior. They may be low income. They may choose not to drive. This would allow projects to tailor their approach to serve some of their residents better. So how do these policies tie with the city's broader parking strategy? Commissioner Harrison, that was a fantastic question you asked in our previous informational briefings. We wanted to give some additional follow-up here. Our goal overall is ensuring that there's parking availability and accessibility for corridors, even as we offer a little more flexibility on the size of the parking lot for specific buildings. So the goal is serving the corridor well and giving individual buildings more flexibility. The other aspects that tie into this are $10 million that the city invested of ARPA funds to build 6 free municipal lots along growing commercial corridors. My colleague Amanda Elias is here to speak to that if commissioners have any questions about that strategy. These lots do make it easier to offer district parking approaches, and the proposals here would really expand on that. The second component is that the city really tries to thoughtfully steward our on-street parking spaces. And a few of the ways that we do that are offering a residential permit program. So residents can ask for their specific block to be made residential parking only. That is by request from the residents to the city, and we feel that it's important that residents are in the driver's seat of asking for that. But that is an option available to any neighborhood that feels their on-street parking is quite busy. The second component is that the city's Park Detroit app has some kind of hidden gem features, I would say. So if you open it up on the map, you can see red, yellow, green, each street where you are most likely and least likely to find an on-street space. So if you take a look at that, it can help you find the available on-street spaces. And then finally, the city does monitor the availability of handicap accessible parking based on our own observations and based on citizen complaints. And DPW can designate additional spaces on the street as handicap only on an as-needed basis. Finally, of course, a major component of this is expanding transportation options in the city generally for those who want a different option. So the city has invested $20 million more in FY26. That's the single biggest investment in any city department in DDOT. DDOT is rapidly hiring bus drivers and looking to expand its service. They've also recently launched same-day paratransit service. So previously, if you were using our paratransit service, you would need to call and book your ride at least 24 hours in advance. You can now call same day and get a ride that same day. So these policies do complement and support the broader strategy that the city is trying to enact around parking and around transportation. Finally, we wanted to note one potential additional policy that we may bring before this commission. Again, following our July 17th briefing, we had very productive conversations between CPC staff and the administration, which identified that potentially permitting accessory dwelling units by right in R2 districts only could also complement this proposal because it builds on the same goals that we're trying to enact here. First, it offers more diverse housing options like in-law suites, places where your parents or your children could live. ADUs do tend to be smaller and lower cost options, and they also offer a real opportunity for residents to build either income generating or family focused units on their own property. So our next step on this prong is conducting additional community engagement throughout August, refining the policy, especially the dimensional requirements that may apply here. And there is a potential, I would even say a likelihood, that we would notice a second public hearing to discuss this and ensure that there's very clear and wide-ranging public notice that this will be a topic of discussion. So we wanted to turn now to a couple kind of broader aspects of the proposal. First is our community engagement and how this fits with other city planning efforts. And then second, we'll close by answering some of the questions that commissioners asked in our July 17th briefing. So we'll start here with how this proposal fits with broader planning efforts. You can see here, of course, the city has been working on community planning for a very long time. We have neighborhood framework plans, the Zone Detroit project, and several ordinances or proposals that have been brought forward out of that. There's an ongoing master plan update. How we see this fitting is that this proposal is a down payment on passing key policies that align with what we heard in those previous processes, but it's only a down payment, and there's still plenty more to do through the Zone Detroit long-term reform efforts. We see ourselves as very aligned, but kind of one immediate incremental step that marries with the broader effort. This is a slide that I showed on the 17th. This just shows how we do align with the community feedback from Zone Detroit. So you can see circled here the topics that we're proposing to address are some of the key topics that were identified in Zone Detroit as requiring policy change. This also draws on community feedback that we got through 21 neighborhood framework plans that the planning department has completed. 100% of those plans wanted more housing options, affordability, or density, and 90% of those plans wanted more walkable communities or multimodal transit. You can see here a few key quotes from a number of those plans ranging from 2018 all the way through last year. So this is kind of consistent feedback over the long term from a real variety of neighborhoods across the city. And I won't read them to you today, but I'm tempted to read the West Verner quote, which couldn't be more on message if it wanted to be. Finally, let me turn to the Director of the Department of Neighborhoods, Erin Harris, who will speak about community engagement on this proposal specifically.
Hello, good evening. Again, my name is Erin Harris. I'm Director of the Department of Neighborhoods. I'm sitting in for Joshua Roberson, who is my deputy, who is leading the engagement for this project. We had 120 plus residents engaged so far across 6 meetings in D1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We are planning more meetings in the month of August. We have one scheduled already on the 19th in D6. We've had 16 letters of support from community organizations and builders that were shared with CPC. Generally, support for building more housing, especially options for residents and neighborhood developers to build. Detroiters have diverse living situations. Some live in single-family homes, apartments, and townhomes. So many comments on programmatic approaches to housing and land, purchasing public land, designing for neighborhood context, how neighborhoods can weigh in on development projects. Relatively positive feedback at the meetings on zoning proposals when weighing in on each item. At the meetings, we make sure to express that the City of Detroit is aware of their concerns, and we are constantly thinking of ways to improve processes, policies, and procedures as it pertains to removing barriers for residents with housing, regarding housing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Erin. So next we wanted to turn to answering a few of the Commissioner's key questions from the July 17th briefing. And we'll first turn to Director Julie Schneider to speak to how this proposal fits with the city's overall housing strategy.
Good evening. Through the chair, Julie Schneider, Director of the Housing and Revitalization Department. So the Housing and Revitalization Department is really focused on 2 main areas of work when it comes to affordable housing. One, keeping and helping Detroiters stay in their homes, both rental and home ownership, as well as creating new options, both rental and home ownership. We've done this by preserving existing affordable housing. To be clear, I'm talking here about preserving the length of the affordability terms so that to prevent displacement, to make sure units are being upgraded and quality housing continues to be provided. Building more affordable housing, particularly rental housing, is where we've really invested a lot of resources. Helping more Detroiters become homeowners. We've done this through the American Rescue Plan Act, helping 788 households become homeowners for the first time, and we'll continue that work in a couple of months through a new funding source and a continuation of that program. Helping Detroiters stay in their home by investing into home repairs. We invest in that work through community development block grant funds. We've invested $45 million of American Rescue Plan Act dollars in that work as well, and ensuring safe and quality rental housing, and also providing housing stability supports through the Detroit Housing Resource Helpline and the Detroit Housing Services. Since 2018, that work has resulted in $1.6 billion invested in affordable housing through both preserving and rehabilitating units as well as creating new units. During that time, we've helped to preserve over 10,000 units of existing affordable housing and developing more than 2,200 new units. This is important as the need for affordable housing, I think, is widely known, but the reason we focused on preserving affordable housing as well is in order to add affordable housing, you cannot be losing affordable housing while you're trying to add. You need net new units, not to stay where you've been in terms of the number of units that you have available. So what we've really tried to do is focus on a number of housing stability needs from both unit creation, unit preservation, as well as providing funds and services to help residents be able to stay in their homes as well. And I'll continue on with the back. I think I'm going back to you, Andy.
Thanks so much, Julie. So the final topic we wanted to address with the commission is what other steps the city is taking to make it easier to build, especially for small and local developers. First, I wanted to highlight a couple tools that are available today. The first is that the Building and Safety Department does offer a preliminary plan review, PPR, consultation, and that consultation brings to the table city experts from across all of the departments to give projects advice on how they might go forward, what types of requirements they may meet, and really kind of help guide them through, give them a roadmap to how they can go through the development process on their specific project. The second component is that BSEED has also launched a simplified RES permit, RES, for 1 and 2 unit home projects. So those projects do move through BSEED on a very expedited timeline. We also have some very exciting next steps coming down later, the second half of this year, as well as 2026. The first of those is that through the federal pro-housing grant, so a recent federal grant that HRD was awarded, we are working to develop pre-approved designs. And what this would create is some off-the-shelf designs that developers could take, have an easier time getting through the city's permitting process. This is at a relatively early stage, so we're launching now, but we have kind of high hopes for the way that this can be helpful to small and local developers. The second is that we're in the process of making substantial updates to our technology systems and websites to make them easier to use. That may sound relatively simple, but it's a lot that we hear from some of our customers, that the website is very confusing to find the information that you need, or that the technology system is not very user-friendly. So we're focused on those kinds of nuts and bolts issues. Last but not least, we are intending to publish process maps of the development timeline as well as expected timelines. So service level agreements is how we think of those inside the city. So again, trying to give some more transparency and clarity to projects on what it takes to move through that process. So with that, we would love to take questions from the commission.
Thank you for that presentation and everyone who participated. I appreciate you coming back with some of those answers, and I can actively see some of the changes you made in that presentation based on some of the feedback from our previous meetings, so I appreciate that. I will go to my commissioners first for comments, starting on my left. Commissioner Lewis, do you have any comments?
Thank you for that presentation. Very good to see you, Director Snyder. I do have one question for you, Director Snyder, if I may, through the chair. Do you see any problems with the limited parking? I know when I only did commercial, and I know at that time on a 10,000 square foot building, about 79 parking spaces were required. And most of the times, 20 or 30 of them were vacant, but it was on a commercial building. Do you see any issues with the limited parking in residential?
Through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, I'm sorry, as you were saying the key word in that sentence, road traffic, prevented me from hearing you. So I heard you say, do I see any problem with
The limited parking,
limited parking?
yes, with the multifamily.
Meaning,
Reducing the parking
Reducing
by, did she say
parking. Okay, thank
20%? Or
so through the chair, I think that what we see with the affordable housing projects that we are working on most frequently is that the developers are frequently requesting parking reductions, or they're struggling to make the parking requirements work within the space that they have. So that is requiring them to purchase more land, which is certainly adding costs to the projects, and build more units, which also build more parking spaces, which also adds to cost of the project. And then that parking is often in excess of what is being used for those developments, and that's why they're requesting those reductions. So Ms. Taverna presented a couple different examples of that, and it's not uncommon. There's I think quite a few other examples of developments coming through the BZA process to require reductions in parking. So I think this allows the proposed changes would allow developments to I think be more responsive to the actual needs of the residents without passing on costs to the residents, which is a natural function of the overall cost of the development project.
Okay, I think I understand you correctly. Generally, what the developers are doing on the multifamily is going through the BZA for a variance, so that reduction in some instances is occurring anyway. Okay, thank you. And then my other question is relative to, last time we talked about the land bank. On their deeds, they had a language in there that precluded the buyer from building on that side lot. So based on what you've stated today, is that language going to be removed?
Correct, ma'am. So I did speak with the land bank on exactly that issue, and what they shared was that 99% of their side lots can be rebuilt by the resident at the resident's will, no prior land bank approval. The only exception to that is in some very high demand neighborhoods like Brush Park or Corktown, where they saw some side lots being very rapidly resold to developers, and so they required land bank prior approval.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I guess on the transactions that I have done with the land bank, each of the deeds indicated that you could not build on the land on that side lot. I would like to be sure that residents of Detroit who own a side lot that fit the criteria of this Let's Build are able to build. So is there any way we can get something a little more definitive from the land bank?
Absolutely, yep. So they shared that with me in writing, but we'll get something in writing to the commission specifically on that point.
Wherein they're going to remove the language, the deed restriction that restricts certain buyers of side lots from building on them. I know one comes to mind on a property in Green Acres, and it showed on the deed that you could not build on that side lot.
I would suggest that we have a direct conversation between you and the land bank. What they shared with me was that in 99% of side lots, the deed does not restrict building. So it may be that Green Acres is one of the 1% exceptions, and it may be that I think a direct conversation with you and the land bank will probably clear this up better than I can.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's one of my main concerns. If we're going to change this ordinance to accommodate developers, that we need to accommodate the residents in the same manner. If they have vacant land next that is buildable under this ordinance, if it were changed, that those individuals would too have the same opportunity.
That is exactly what we intend, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Taverna, for the presentation. A lot of information, a lot of progress made between the last meeting. And you know, as I receive this and look over the materials that you've provided in the slides and what's been shared with me, I think that there's a lot here that's important, you know, for the conversations that we're having about the future of Detroit. So, really appreciating the forward thinking and the thought that's going into this as you explore this. While we have this opportunity to gather more feedback from the public, I'm wondering what types of questions are being asked in the public meeting about the importance of transit to the success of this proposal. Because in looking at the benchmark examples that you've provided from Minneapolis, especially, a lot of it emphasizes the importance of connecting these housing types with the importance of transit. So can you talk about how you're having that conversation with residents and getting feedback about the importance of transit to this, and maybe what you're receiving back in terms of what residents are emphasizing in terms of needs and possibilities there?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I would say that there is a dedicated contingent of residents who are very focused on Detroit's transit system, and we are very much the better for it as a city. So you'll hear actually from Transit Riders United today. They are in the audience. We have a number of members of Strong Towns Detroit in the audience who I all expect will be making public comment to you. So we have certainly gotten a lot of emphasis on the importance of transit. I would say the other types of questions we've been getting, especially on that, is kind of how we're treating the commercial corridors and some of the commercial corridor parking strategies that I spoke to. You know, we've gotten some questions around that, but in all candor, the bulk of the discussion has been around kind of the city's housing and land use policies. We've actually gotten relatively fewer kind of sets of commentary around either the parking or the transportation components.
Yeah, appreciate that. And I'll be eager to hear some of those comments. And I don't have a lot to say right now. I probably have more to say, but I especially think that that's important. And recognizing that this can't be sort of a solve-all for all of those challenges. Part of the solution, as you sort of indicated early on, like this is part of something. But I think that component around sort of transit and ensuring really accessibility. We talked a lot about making certain that there's consideration around handicap accessibility in districts and parking. But I think transit also is something that I'm eager to hear back from folks around, like what are they thinking about in terms of feedback, so that we can maximize the opportunity to listen and understand around this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Commissioner Esparza?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a few notes I wanted to share. I have to commend the team. They've come a long way in 2 weeks, so great progress and development. Thank you for that. And going back to the presentation, there was mention regarding a possibility with ADUs, but it was also mentioned that may be separate from this package or proposal. I would be very supportive if we could find a way to make it part of this package. Also, in this may be a follow-up response in a future presentation, but curious about when the consideration for an alternative parking plan is an option before BSEED. Have we gone as far as developing a template or form, or is that going to be the direction and end result so that we can consider an alternative parking plan, or you can?
Through the chair, Dave Bell, Director of BSEED. We have developed a high-level implementation plan, which is as follows. Number one, we would start off with, like we always do, CPC-led training of all staff. We would define the scope and intent of the ordinance with planning and development. Then we would change the review. We would review the criteria. We would do the criteria development, and which would be handled by BSEED and Planning and Development. The submission would be a form that is online. Our online system would be modified so that they could submit the plan online like they submit with the regular plans and fill out the form. The approval process would include the review of the alternative parking plan being done by planners. It would not be done by building inspectors. It would be somebody with a planning background. Then we would also, monitor the process and make sure that we have a strong stakeholder communication strategy. So our goal is to make sure that this is as seamless as possible, sir.
Great, thank you. Last item, Chairman. Based on the engagement that has taken place to date, and bearing in mind that you've mentioned that you plan to be very active in the month of August with continued engagement, have there been any lessons learned that would benefit us in August with the engagement? More visuals, maybe depending on which district you're in, the presentation is tailored to that district so that they can identify easily, quickly, and maybe even have some great follow-up questions for the team?
Definitely. I would say a couple lessons learned are, well, one, as context, we have been using district-specific presentations. So our presentations include a map of all of the R2 neighborhoods in that district, so specific streets, specific parcels, and all of the examples. So when I was showing you what do these houses look like, those are all district-specific, and we give folks the neighborhood, the year it was built. So we have tried to be proactive in that way. I think some lessons learned are, one, doing pretty broad outreach around the meetings. We've had variability in attendance. We've had some that were, last night's was 45 people. We've had some that were a lot smaller, so I think we're going to be very intentional around that. I would say the other real lesson learned is a lot of the feedback that we get after we present is around kind of other considerations that residents have on the city's housing and on their neighborhoods. And that's, that's not unexpected. They're happy that we're in their district and they want an opportunity to say their piece. Totally, they're right. What we've done that's been, I think, relatively more effective is coming back at the end of the conversation and saying, great, we hear the considerations in your mind. We wanted to give you, one more opportunity to actually weigh in formally on the proposal. So we come back at the end and go point by point. Number one, what do you guys think? We did a show of hands last night. That was pretty effective. So I think each and every meeting we've been kind of learning how to get feedback on these particular changes, even though they do certainly tie to broader programmatic changes that folks would like the city to make.
Great. Director Todd.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you. Goodness gracious. Wrong time to lose the voice. And thank you, Deputy COO Tavener. Commissioner Esparza, like to offer a couple of things to further support what's been said. In the past, when we've had text amendments of this sort, we have gone to a full Doncast through the Department of Neighborhoods, and there have been occasions where we have actually done a virtual citywide session on behalf of the commission itself. In this particular case, we, in working with our colleagues, really wanted to try to target initially certain parts of the city, certainly each district, given the concerns, but we also were looking to, I believe, as was mentioned, target the R2 zoned areas. So I think to the extent that we may have the opportunity in the coming month and maybe even just beyond into September, hopefully maybe we could get before a full Doncast in order that we might have citywide audience to this issue through, again, a citywide Doncast. And then, as I said, maybe we can look to do the same based upon capacities and availability by hosting a CPC virtual citywide session as well. Also, with respect to your previous question, we agree with Director Bell in terms of the approach that they're taking with regard to the alternative parking plan, but staff would also like to see some parameters added to the ordinance itself, and that's one of the things that we've identified, and we'll be discussing that further. So I think you'll see both. You'll see some additional parameters that probably will mimic other provisions that are already in the ordinance as it concerns other similar functions. And then, as was stated, BC will then hammer out the details, and as always, Director Bell and company will figure out how to manage it. And again, as we note in the report, this is a provision that's been on the books since '05, and again, we believe has never been used by anyone because of the way that it's structured. So we're hoping that this will, I think, as we state in the report, provide one of the relief valves that developers are looking for, and again, send a lot more work through to building and safety engineering.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you again to leadership at the table, and thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Sparza. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your presentation. I really appreciate it, and I can see how you all heard some of our questions from last time and addressed them. So I do appreciate that labor and that help. I also want to say that I appreciate you listing out the support that you have for Detroiters, like the resources through BC and what you all are hoping to develop. And I also appreciate, in particular, talking about transit more and talking about how, with changing some parking requirements, we need multimodal transportation. And so I can hear you all start to talk about that. I have three main questions. My first one is that I saw a lot of comments from folks in our packet about people's comments either supporting or not supporting these changes. And some of these concerns are about the historical districts, and some of the comments are in favor of this, saying, I want this in my backyard. I think greater density, even in historical districts, in my own backyard, won't change the character of the neighborhood. Some folks say you should not be touching historical districts, and I know that you talked about it a little bit, but do you mind to clarify the additional review or the impact on historical districts, just so anyone who had written a comment or is thinking about it can really clearly understand the impact?
Through the chair, certainly any work that is done in the historic district must go before the Historic District Commission in order to be reviewed. Again, one of the functions through permitting that Director Bell provides in terms of funneling such work to the commission in order to be done. So in these cases, any of those changes, those improvements that we've talked about, wherein there is an R2 district in a historic district, then it will go through that process. And further to your point, as we've read some of those, the reactions as well, we we believe that the work certainly can be done in a way, as has been described, with respect to a non-historic district, R2 district, that is consistent, complementary to a given neighborhood. And we would expect the same to be done here. I think we can probably maybe engage further with the HDC staff in order to see if they may indeed want to even, prepare additional guidelines that might be consistent in some way with the pattern book that was referred to, so that we are certainly indicating early on to individuals what the city's expectations are with respect to a historic district. And I think that's something that would certainly give those residents greater satisfaction that the city is looking out for the concerns. I would also say, to the extent that, again, some of those comments are very supportive, I think there are a number of people who are looking at the fabric of a number of those historic districts and seeing where they are, in fact, quite conducive to the very thing that we're talking about. I think would be looking forward then to the challenge to design such facilities that would be consistent. Again, supporting the need for the city to work hand in hand with those individuals.
Yeah, thank you so much, Director Todd, for explaining that a little bit. And I do think that it gives a good pathway to having more City Planning Commission role, like staff role, in helping to further develop and refine these, including the connection to the Historic Designation Board. Yes. So I think that's great. My next comment is regarding the transit, and we heard a little bit about how much money DDOT has put in, what they're trying, who they're hiring, what they are doing. I'm curious if we can at some point get them in here to talk about their plans more specifically, because I do think we must talk about this holistically, and I think that they should be at the table so we know what they are planning, and if we can ensure that if we are trying to have more multi-use spaces, more Main Street spaces, that we have sufficient forms of alternate transportation that aren't just for cars. So I would love to have them at the table if that's possible. And then my final thing is, I'm wondering if you have had more thought on an idea such as a moratorium for these changes for specifically Detroiters for a certain amount of time or something, to ensure that this isn't just a gateway for developers from outside the city to come and develop because they see this as a free-for-all. I think I would love some guardrails or protections to ensure that Detroiters have first access or are able to really have control over how this is implemented and what the new development that is possible through this, that they can have a say, especially in what's going on here.
We very much agree that Detroiters should certainly have a very large say in all of this, and of course should be prioritized in terms of the opportunities that this creates. You heard our emphasis on that throughout the presentation. The city's law department has advised that it would not be lawful to limit these provisions to just Detroit residents.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Chair. I liked the presentation, and I've got a couple of questions that might fall a little bit outside of the presentation, and it goes so more for my understanding of things that are out there that I'm really not that familiar with. And well, the first one was the residential permit program. The residential permit program. You know, I've heard good things about it, but I just don't know about it and how it's nice that the residents are able to ask for that. And I'm just thinking, if I didn't know about it, maybe a lot of people don't know about it. And if you could kind of expand a little bit on what that entails and what that means. I've got a vision of it, but I don't know if my vision is correct.
Yes, sir, through the chair. Up until a year or so ago, from the time we implemented the new online program, Acela, all building permits were issued under BLD permits. That means that if it was a one family, if it was the Hudson building, it was a BLD permit. And in doing so, it was a little bit harder to get to the residential permits because everything was a BLD. And so what we did was we took all 1 and 2 family permits, and we made sure that if it was a 1 and 2 family, we gave it the RES designation so that it was easy to find. And we designated staff to specifically look at those permit applications so that we can get those knocked out much quicker. That's what we did, sir.
Okay, that was excellent information, and I think I might have misspoke a little bit because and maybe I termed it wrong, but the residential parking permit program, but that was great, Mr. Bell, because I didn't know that, and then that is a beautiful thing to help streamline thing. But that's what I really didn't know. No, I'll let you go ahead.
Everything's a permit to a building official.
Yeah, but that was great information. No problem.
Thank you so much, sir. So the residential parking permit program, it allows residents block by block. So there's a form that's available on the city's website, and you kind of get signatures from your neighbors. It allows, on a block by block basis, to request a residential only zone from the city. The only one that I'm familiar with, at least, is in Brush Park. So what would happen is that the street signs along the street would be limited to residential parking only. You would get a little placard from the city. You also do typically in these programs, you get visitor placards. So if you have a guest come to your house, you can have one for them to park on the street. but certain parts of Brush Park can only be used by residents during certain time periods.
Okay, that's nice. And then there was and that where would you find that? You know, if I'm gonna say on my block, I want to do it. Where would I go and find that?
My understanding is that it's on the Municipal Parking Department's website. Aaron Harris, I can't make. Do you know if that's correct? Thank you.
It is on the municipal parking website, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And so I got a couple more questions. You guys had and this I'm following up on Commissioner Udami's it was a travel distance map at DDOT, high frequency routes, quarter and half mile buffers. Could you bring that up again? And I'm not really expecting an answer with this question, but you know, I know part of this is Highland Park and Hamtramck where there's a void, and I'm curious, is there some communication with them on when they increase this so that more of the city is in a high transit or walkable area, so more of the residents is there, you know, when the request Commissioner Udami made, you know, I'd like to know how they plan to expand the purple, the shades of purple throughout the city.
Absolutely. So I'm happy to see if our DDOT Executive Director, Robert Kramer, can join us next time or can send a written memo to the Commission. The short version of the answer is that unfortunately, like many public transit agencies across the country, DDOT significantly cut service during the pandemic, and we've been working very hard with them over a number of years to regrow service to its pre-pandemic level and then build off of that base. They do have a public-facing plan called DDOT Reimagined that explains how that would happen. The routes that you see before you here are the most frequent routes, so there are two different ways to increase service. One is making the frequent routes come more frequently. Sorry if that's a little simplistic, but the Jefferson bus, for example, comes every 10 minutes, and we call that a bus rapid transit route, a BRT route. So the goal is first to take some of these kind of key corridors and increase them to that frequency. And then the other angle here is that there are some routes that come once every hour, and that's an important lifeline for those communities. But it's hard, you know, it's tough to plan your life around one transportation option an hour. So we've been also increasing service on those routes as well. And it's just really a balance of how many bus drivers and buses we have available at any given time. But we're trying to be very even-handed in how we add service. We do it on a quarterly basis.
Okay. And then thank you. And the next question, I think I'm piggybacking on Commissioner Lewis's. I did the response that I didn't know that. Well, if someone has purchased their side lot and all this goes through, would it retroactively go back to those people that then they would be allowed to build on their side lots? I don't know if I said that succinctly or not, but.
Yep. My best understanding from the the land bank, is that side lots can be built upon by right in 99% of cases. So we can get more clarification for you on that point. I hear that it's very important to the Commission, and we have the same policy goal as you. So let us come back to you just in writing, black and white, no ambiguity.
And then I'm almost done. Just a comment, and I believe it's a compliment, is that, you know, I think I live in a very progressive city, and I think that, you know, when we ask some questions, there's a really good answer for it. And I might not be the best of knowing where that information is, but, you know, and it might be some people that are along my lines. And so I think a lot of the times when we're saying, well, the city should do this or the city should do that, they're already thinking about it. It's just that I didn't know about it. And if there was a consolidated place where we could go and get some of these answers quickly, and I know they're on different departments' websites, but maybe we could consolidate that where, I don't know, back in the day they had the one-stop business shop and that, but, so people, because the good work that's being done needs to get out. And I think that is part of or one of the biggest problems is that a lot of these things they're solutions to problems already there. We just have to go and get them, right? Or know about them. Okay, thank you very much, and it was a great presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Really appreciate how so many of the concerns and ideas and things we brought up 2 weeks ago have already been taken into consideration. Shows a very thoughtful approach. To echo a few things from my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Sparza said I also would really support the inclusion of ADUs into this. As I had shared a few weeks ago, that I am one of those people that purchased some land in the city and built one of those 19.5-foot wide homes for themselves. So it is seeing a lot of these things that would have helped me out and made things a bit more flexible and expeditious is great to see. And I understand the thought of with supply and demand and with market forces, we build more housing that'll alleviate pressures with rent and purchase pricing, etc. One question with that is, with the land bank, I know they're still a holder of a tremendous amount of the property in the city, and parcels aren't always available at certain times. This enhanced flexibility represents an enhancement of the marketability of this land. Will we see that the prices that are being listed for these parcels rise to where it becomes unaffordable for Detroiters essentially buy it? The lot I bought, which is in a pretty desirable neighborhood, was less than $20,000. I know that would not go for that price today, 6 years, 7 years later. And now if you're talking about there's the ability to now double your capacity or quadruple your capacity on these parcels, are we going to see something exponential where then we're talking about this being, a chance for opportunity for regular Detroiters, but it goes out the window because market forces? Is there anything that's possible? Have a dialogue with the land bank to ensure that we're not going to see that happen, because I see there is a chance for your average person that wants to start your family and things like that, are smaller developers, but also a lot of the support is coming from larger developers that are outside the city in some respects. So just wondering if that's something that's in consideration.
I know that Director Todd is interested in finding an opportunity for the land bank to speak separately with this commission. We hear that there are a number of questions, and I would really need to defer that to them. I'd be a little over my skis.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you. You've been very helpful in a lot of things that you can't answer everything. I completely understand. Along with that, one other agency that would be of use in being on board with this is DWSD. Utilities are a big part of development and understanding when it comes to sewer, water, things like that. I'm thinking from my own experience, but just making sure that they understand you may get an influx of people that are coming to you that don't know about, what a curb stop is or what a sewer tap is, but they want to build, and just making sure that there's something to kind of streamline their process. I see that, BC now has a residential permit, so making sure that it's easier for them. I think that just engaging DWSD if you haven't already, if this comes to fruition, hopefully it does, because they are going to be a part of that. Let's see, what else did I have? Very happy to hear about the pro housing and the plans that'll be pre-approved to come hopefully in the next year or two. I think that'll be a big help to a lot of people. But overall, I'm a lot supportive of things that are part of this, and it's very good to see. I'm glad that we're engaging the public and that they have the opportunity today to listen in and voice their concerns and find out things and understand what all is going on and how this might be transformative for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, you guys did a great job with the presentation. Very informative. Took a long time coming, but we're finally here. I've been getting a lot of, over the years, developers calling asking how to do this, that, or navigate through the city's maze. Are there any incentives going to be offered to developers? I know with some of the larger developments, they get tax breaks like TIFs or things like that to help incentivize the smaller developer.
Through the chair to Commissioner Daniels. So recently, and by recently I mean in November, the City Council adopted a change to the city's payment in lieu of taxes ordinance, which is a program to really encourage affordable rental housing. That allows for developments of 4 or more to be eligible for the payment in lieu of taxes program. So where someone was building 4 or more units that qualified under the payment in lieu of taxes, which means they need to provide affordability requirements for residents. They need to do that over a certain amount of time, and they need to obtain and maintain a certificate of compliance. They would be eligible for that program. Payment in lieu of taxes are able to serve residents anywhere from, or developments that are renting units to residents anywhere from 0 to 120% of the area median income, or in other words, extremely low income households as well as moderate income households as well. Developments that if they meet the neighborhood enterprise zone requirements, they would be eligible to potentially apply for under the neighborhood enterprise zone new and rehabilitation districts as well. There is capacity in that program, as under state law, up to 15% of the city's land area can qualify or utilize that incentive. So I think there are a couple of incentives that could be utilized if there are developments that meet the state requirements, which is for the payment in lieu of taxes is 4 units, and for neighborhood enterprise zone is generally 10 contiguous units or 10 contiguous parcels, with some exceptions. But so those incentives already do exist and would be able to be accessed by developers who are looking to build infill developments within neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. My second question, is there a list of all of the lots available that are owned by the land bank that someone can go and look at by district?
Erin Harris, do you want to try this one? Thanks.
So on their website, they do have lots that are listed. If you were to put in your address to see what is 500 feet within your home or what is a side lot, I'm not exactly sure if they have a map on their website that actually lists each available lot in each district. But you are able to access the ones that are closer to you in the district.
Okay. Let me see. What's the other question? Is it possible to get this presentation for us?
Yep, absolutely. We'll send it around.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Thank you very much again for your presentation. Director?
Through the chair. Commissioner Daniels, we do apologize. The COO did provide it to us. We forgot to email it to you prior to the meeting. So we will make sure that email is circulated to commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels, and my fellow commissioners for bringing a lot of good comments and points forward. I just have a couple things I want to add. As it relates to the land bank, I know it's coming up a lot, and we're dealing with zoning ordinances, but I think the reason why it's coming up so much is because the land bank owns so much of this land that we're directly talking about. So on one hand, yes, we're talking about the code changes, but how the land bank administers land after this happens greatly impacts what this city will look like if this continues to go forward, which is why I think it's so important that they provide answers or at least comments and feedback to the things that we're raising prior to us making a decision. And I don't want that to be, not addressed before we get there, because I think it's going to be a issue amongst the dais here. Second, I like the ideas of ADUs. I think that's great. And R2s. I haven't heard any conversation about R1s yet, and we did bring that up at the last meeting. So I'm for both reasons. One, if we're considering allowing 2 families in R1s, conditional or by right, and also how ADUs will impact R1s if that is what the intention is. Because it sounds like I think I only heard it for R2. Right. So if I would like to see if these things could be implemented in R1, or if not, I'm curious to why that wouldn't be a thing. If it's not, because it's not a good idea, it's not a good idea, that's fine. But I would be curious if there was any conversation about that. Director Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, as this is one of the components of the work that has been done through your consultant for Zone Detroit, we are already certainly cognizant of a number of concerns, particularly those which come from our R1 traditional single-family community. So we would be looking to do it here where it certainly does make sense and is somewhat consistent with some of the things that we see in the R2, and particularly where we see in some of our historic areas and what we see in the core area of the city, which again is consistent with the deployment of R2 as you saw on the map. So what I'm essentially saying is we want to take the opportunity to see if we can advance it here. It is definitely a much heavier lift. It is a greater concern from the residents of our R2, of our R1 zone community. So I think we will be looking at that in a subsequent phase. We'll probably take a closer look at it as we're looking at the implementation of other changes to the zoning ordinance to deal with missing middle housing. And once again, we would like to do this in concert with the work coming out of Zone Detroit, coming out of Plan Detroit relative to our master plan. So It is something that we're definitely considering, but it will be something that would come back to you at a later time.
Okay, thank you. Great answer. All right, next, I heard that there are changes in various residential districts related to like setbacks and some of those dimensional requirements. When looking at like multifamilies and corridors, are you looking at the FAR requirement at all, the floor area ratio requirements?
Yes, so the specific proposal around that, bear with me so I can be very clear here. The component of this proposal that is intended to make it easier to rebuild on vacant lots applies to lots below the minimum required to build, so below 5,000 square feet or 50 feet wide. In an R2 district, typically lots would be subject to an FAR of 0.5. We proposed removing that for these lots below the minimum and instead having a height limit of 35 feet, which is in line with the neighboring buildings. So we felt like that got the same important policy of maintaining the height, but without an FAR.
And that's in the R2 district, correct?
Correct.
What about in the corridors? Though you wouldn't have R2 in those corridors, would you?
Are you asking about business corridors?
Yes, because there was some language about multifamilies going in the business corridors.
I see where you're going.
So the question is, how are FAR regulations being adjusted to reflect multifamilies in the business corridors?
We have not discussed that yet, sir, but we're happy to take a closer look at it.
Okay, thank you. When it comes to parking, couple questions. Do we have a procedure in mind if this goes forward and parking does what parking does in scenarios where parking is not sufficient? You allow, let's say, a block's worth of development to happen with reduced parking requirements, but now it's a really busy area. What happens when parking just isn't sufficient? Is there a procedure? Is there, what happens? And if that's that's a question you got to defer, please.
Yep. Well, let me start for a moment. I'm wondering, Director Bush, if you may like to speak to the Corktown study that's underway in particular, because I think that may be a top-of-mind example. I would say at a high level, I think the residential permit parking program is one of the best tools in our tool belt, and that is how many cities handle that type of challenge. So if you see spillover from a commercial corridor onto a residential area, a very typical response would be to limit the parking on that street to residential only. We have, in the city of Detroit, we've thought it's important that residents be leading that, so we would be looking for residents to make that request. The other component that I would allude back to is the municipal parking lots that we built on kind of growing commercial corridors, looking to alleviate that.
And I was going to kind of get there eventually, but so kind of two solutions you mentioned. One, yes, if the corridor gets busy, people may start parking in the residential, and there the solution being is residential parking permits. I'm looking for an answer to another solution when the corridor doesn't have enough parking, and there's just not enough parking to support the corridor anymore, because we're going to utilize street parking. We're going to utilize the available land between buildings, vacant land between buildings. That's all great. But what happens when that's just not enough? Because we've reduced the parking requirements. And there may not be an answer today, but that's just...
Mr. Chair, certainly as you know, this is one of the underlying concerns of staff. Our colleagues share it as well. We're all far and away, I think, more cognizant of this potential going forward. And I think it is why, as we continue to consider and move toward finalization of the amendment that's before you, we're going to be taking an even closer look at those sorts of things, taking a look at those areas which we might be able to identify today, which have been sort of alluded to, where we already know that we have some challenges that the city is attempting to address. So again, as we noted before, sometimes the penalty for success are problems such as these, and oftentimes in certain other situations, that's seen as, in fact, an example of your success. But we do have to find a way, I think, to manage it. We've been certainly concerned about where this happens and there ends up being spillover into adjacent neighborhoods, and where you don't have capacity in the neighborhood to, I think, the point that you're making, what are we left with? So these are definitely things that we're going to try to consider to the best of our ability. Certainly, again, we'll yield to Director Bush in terms of her thoughts on this matter, but this is certainly a growth management concern in any city. Mm-hmm. And being able to do our level best to sort of balance those needs and those concerns against the various opportunities and other desires that are out there is a welcome challenge, but nonetheless a challenge.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Couple more items, just maybe related. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Yes, through the chair, would be happy to speak to the question around the parking study. I do think, as Director Todd pointed out, in some ways it is a good problem to be having, that we are now seeing enough density activity and people wanting to be in our places that we're now in the situation where we're figuring out more cars and mobility. How do we get people to where they need to go? I think, yes, we're right in the midst of that work in Corktown to look at what alternatives are, to think about how we move people, to think about cars, which still unfortunately play such a big role in our mobility options. But I do think this conversation about the relationship with transit, with multiple modes, is really important to look at holistically. I also recognize, having worked on a number of our streetscape projects across the city, it is this chicken and egg conversation that we're in of we've been in a very auto-dominated pattern. We don't quite have a full transit solution yet, but how do we begin to move in that direction? I think that's the thick of what we look at when we're looking at streetscapes, when we're thinking about planning, when we're thinking about how do we accommodate growth. I do think this is a place where this further discussion through the summer around what the parking policy is, how do we shake that out, will be a key piece of that conversation. That we will definitely look to some of these efforts we have ongoing where we're seeing kind of more popular, more dense places that are starting to wrestle with these challenges, and what solutions we might have available to best meet the needs of people to get around and enjoy the places that we're seeing grow.
Okay, thank you. And then So yeah, I will, if possible, if there is an opportunity to continue to study the impacts of parking in not just Corktown, but what this could look like in other areas, particularly the high frequency transit areas. And then my last question or comment to Mr. Bell, I do like the idea of the criteria for the alternative parking, and I tend to lean with staff. They would like to see those codified. I think that'd be just great, transparent, and clear for everybody. And then my closing statement would be, in the midst of the studies that are happening, we're looking at density increasing, traffic increasing, and we're still down, 1.3 million residents, something along those lines, right? So I think we're in a very unique position where we get a chance to kind of start over how we look at transportation and density and housing. And I'm curious if there's an opportunity to fit into that study. What does Detroit look like if, I think we're thinking of a linear path towards getting 2,500 units per year or something like that. I think that's the number you threw out, 2,500. But I think at one point it's going to curve and, it's going to be like faster, right? Because once we get going, it's going to snowball. We're going to get like 4,000, 5,000 every year, right? So when we're increasing density that fast, and I think Director Todd mentioned, it's just growth management. So I just want to make sure we're reiterating those points that we know that this may snowball into the greatest thing ever, and we get residents coming. That's the goal, right? So growth management is very important in how this rolls itself out. That's all my questions and comments. So again, thank you for entertaining us and bringing this information to us. I think we're all pretty excited about it, and we want the best thing to happen going forward. So again, thank you. Dr. Todd, public hearing. This is a public hearing, so in our normal fashion for public hearings, there are two ways to participate. If you are a resident or public commenter, you can present by getting staff a yellow comment card. They'll get it here to the front, and then we'll acknowledge you in that fashion. And if you are participating within the Zoom platform, you can raise your hand within Zoom, and then they'll move you over as a panelist, and then we will receive your comments in that fashion. Everyone in person and virtually will have 2 minutes. I'm going to be very strict on time, so if I have to cut you short, I apologize, but it has to be done. We will start with the comments we have in person. To my left, your right, there are 2 chairs. There are microphones. When you get to the microphone, I'll call 2 people up at a time. When it's your turn to speak, just tap the base. It'll turn from red to green, and then you can speak. The first 2 up I have is Lucas Lassini and Herbert McGrady. Hyvert, I apologize. Hyvert McGrady. All right. Whenever you're ready, you can speak. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening to the commissioners and other Detroitians. My name is Hyvert McGrady. I've been a resident of the historical Virginia Park area, which is between the east side of the Lodge and Virginia Park. And it is a written and recorded historic district, but we had a developer to come in and try and develop the parking lot where the hospital is. And for all the stuff that we're talking about approving is directly averse to what we're trying to approve here, because the historical commission shot them down, and they keep going back for the same thing. They wanted less parking, and they wanted all sorts of other stuff that's directly opposed to what we're saying we're going to open up to them. And if you take a look at our district, the parking for the residents themselves, if you take a look up on Seward, there's no space. And if you take a look down Virginia Park, you have to wait for people to come because people parked on each side, and you might have to wait 5 minutes because if somebody come right behind them, you're just sitting there because you can't go down the street. And this development want less parking. That was one of their requests. But the Historical Society Commission shot them down, but they keep going back for variances. And unless this commission decide that they cannot get a request to proceed, then all they got to do is get a request to proceed, and they go around the commission, and then
Thank you, sir.
there's nothing to stop them. This proposal is trying to approve for them to be able to do whatever they want to do.
Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The 2 minutes is up, and I'd like to call to the chairs Joel Batterman and Amy Hemmeter, and we'll start with Joel. And there should be 2 chairs that have microphones. All right, whenever you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Joel Batterman. I'm a resident of District 5 and campaigns manager for Transportation Riders United, TRUE, a nonprofit that advocates for improved public transit in the city and region. First, though, I want to share a personal reflection on the importance of the missing middle housing that we're talking about tonight. Since 2017, my wife and I have been the proud owners of a 2-family flat in the Dexter-Linwood area. We live upstairs, and my in-laws live downstairs, so they can help us take care of our disabled son. It's really a perfect arrangement. We each have our own space, but we're still within easy reach of each other when needed. This is an example of how well smaller-scale, multi-unit housing can work for families, especially the multi-generational families that are becoming more and more common. On behalf of Transportation Riders United, I want to stress how important these zoning reforms are to creating a more transit-friendly city and allowing more people access to public transit. Over the past decade, many of our near-downtown neighborhoods have gentrified, driving up rents and displacing residents, many of whom are pushed to areas of the city and region with less access to frequent bus service. By allowing for more missing middle housing and reducing parking requirements for new development, these zoning reforms will help to bring down costs and put more people within easy reach of convenient transit and other amenities. TRUE strongly supports these measures as a common sense step towards a more equitable and accessible city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Hemmeter, and I live on the east side. I wanted to say that I also support these measures. When I think about land use in Detroit, I always think about the 3 empty lots right near my home on the corner of Van Dyke and Werner. I looked them up, and one of them is 18,000 square feet, and it's owned by a notorious speculator, speaking of people who get away with murder in our city. I hate that empty lot. I always look at it and imagine, what if there was a grocery store or a restaurant or a hardware store or a doctor's office there? There were some good questions here about the importance of transit, and I don't have a car. Better transit would help me greatly, but it would also help just as much to make it easier for me to walk to things I need in my own neighborhood. I also decided to look up some parking lot requirements. For a building under 50,000 square feet in the city of Detroit, you need a parking space for every 200 square feet of retail space. I also looked up how much space a parking space takes up, and it's about 180 square feet. Those two numbers are very similar, 180 square feet, 200 square feet, and that doesn't include the little aisles you have to drive through when you have a parking lot. So basically, any retail space would need the same amount of parking as the retail space itself. In that 18,000 square foot of vacant lot, they would need 9,000 square feet of parking, which isn't really that different than 9,000 square feet of the empty lot itself for the people who live there. And I'm not against, businesses providing parking, but it should be up to the business to choose how much they need. If they have enough customers in their area who can walk, especially if we're building more dense infill housing, then why should we have the big ugly parking lot when we could have more useful and vibrant retail space? As a resident, I know which I prefer. Thank you so much for the time and opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sean Minty and Deanne Austin. I apologize if I didn't say that right.
Okay. Let's see, I hope it's good. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Deanne Austin. I live in District 2, right here in Detroit, and I'm speaking today in strong support of the proposed zoning changes. As a former educator, a transit advocate, and I'm here along with Transportation Writers United, I know firsthand how vital it is to align our land use policies with our transportation goals. Transit works best when more people live near frequent and reliable service. As a millennial who does not own a car and never had a driver's license, it can be very expensive getting around. And as areas like Midtown or all over the city continue to be gentrified, we have a responsibility to make sure people of all incomes can still afford to not only live here, but get around. Allowing more housing near our key transit corridors not only helps reduce displacement, it makes our buses, bike shares, ride shares, sidewalks work better for everyone. More housing means more riders, less traffic, and a stronger, more inclusive Detroit. I urge you all to move forward with these proposed changes forward and help us build a city where housing and transit support each other and support people who all call Detroit home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sean Minty, and I live in Island View. I fully support all of the zoning amendments discussed today. I chose to live in an R2 neighborhood zoned for multifamily housing because I believe density creates a more vibrant and interconnected community, which is very important to me. I live in a duplex with my wife and have enjoyed getting to know my downstairs neighbor, Leah, a talented ceramicist who very much likes watching our dog whenever she gets the chance. She is watching our dog right now, actually. Because I already live in an area zoned for multifamily housing, I welcome more of it. I think streamlining the process of building more multifamily infill housing will make R2 neighborhoods more desirable and more walkable. One of my favorite things to do is very simple. It's just walk around my neighborhood. So I live near West Village. I like walking to Red Hook with my neighbors, and then we get coffee and we talk to everyone that hangs out in front of Red Hook, and then we walk around the neighborhood. And in general, I run into like 2, 3, 4 different random people, and we have a lot of different conversations. The reason we can do this is because there is some density already existing in that area, but we really would greatly benefit from more density all throughout Detroit. Recently, well, not recently, but within the past year, a local place called Snack Camp that was in West Village closed down, which was kind of sad for me because I became somewhat close friends with the owners, Michael and Vanessa, but they just couldn't, it didn't make financial sense for them to stay in that spot anymore, so they left the community. So these zoning amendments, I think, would attract more people, and more people are good both for the health of a community so that you have more neighbors to talk to, but also for the health of businesses because there's more customers.
Cut you short.
Thank you very much for your time.
Sorry. All right, next up we have Justin Panhans. Apologize if I misspoke that, and John Bolt.
Good evening. My name is Justin. I'm a resident in District 5. And I guess I just want to give a perspective from my family. I have aging parents, and they've come to terms with the fact that they won't be able to live in their single-family home forever, and they're going to need someone that can check up on them, maybe daily, right? So we're looking at, can we build a duplex or a triplex, and be able to live together, kind of in a multi-generational housing, and there's limited options, and it's difficult to build. And so I see zoning changes like this making it a lot easier for having multi-generational communities in our neighborhoods. I'm a big fan, and I also say in terms of parking, I do not want parking lots in my neighborhood. I would much rather have green space or a local business or more housing. So I'm also in favor of lowering those parking minimums. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Bolt. I live over in Woodbridge. I just want to speak a little bit about what we lose out when we don't pass reforms like this. I'm strongly in favor of all aspects. I think we could go further. We lose residents, people that, have a lot to contribute to the city and end up going to other cities. I know dozens of people that have done this, where there are more amenities, there is better transit, there are better businesses, there's better housing available. Detroit has, in some respects, cheap housing, but the quality of housing stock is not always the best. I've known several close friends that have left. I, for 2 years, left myself. I just moved back. I really believe in this city, but it needs to make a lot of changes with respect to its built environment. Specifically on the minimum parking requirements, I would really prefer that is left up to the market to decide. There's a lot of concerns that I'm hearing about this, but developers, they have an interest in people, and business owners have an interest in people coming to their businesses. It's not that parking will go away entirely. There is also something I'd like to talk about with, I don't know if this has been done here, but parking benefit districts is something that some cities have done to address concerns with limits on parking. What this is you charge for the parking spots, what might otherwise be free parking spots, and you give that money back to the neighborhood. So what this does is it for whatever investment park, however, it incentivizes neighborhoods to buy in to charged parking. That reduces the amount of people that are demanding parking in the area because they don't want to pay for it, and so it can help free up spaces for folks while also benefiting everyone there, and they might be less opposed to the
Got to cut you short.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we have Mitchell Monty and Francis Granal. Whenever you're ready, just make sure the mic is green.
Gotcha. Sure, I'll go. Sorry, I'm hungry, so I'll try and keep this short.
2 minutes.
So I'd like to recommend The High Cost of Free Parking by Donald Shoup, if you guys haven't read it already. Here, parking, that's always the main thing that you guys hear from residents all the time, I know. And that's probably why you're echoing those concerns back at us. But I also want to point out that we've heard a lot, of concerns today about people's families and their friends. And I want to point out that it's a lot more important that we talk about housing people than housing cars. And we need, especially in a city like Detroit with 30% of people who don't have access to a personal vehicle, we really need to be focusing on how do we, respond to the needs of people, especially people who are not politically well connected. Anyways, I guess I just want to say I support everything that the planning department has put out today. I'd like to go even farther, and I hope we can get this done as quickly as possible. Because I live in Green Acres, and I'd like to see some of these parking lots on Livernois go away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Francis Bruno. Oh. Here.
It'll turn green. There you go.
Oh, it's that button.
And Christopher O'Brien, you're up next.
Sorry. Can I get can I reclaim my time?
Yeah. We'll reset you.
I'll be fast. I just want to say thanks. Again, my name is Francis Bruno. I'm a resident of New Center. I want to say thanks for listening to this presentation. It's very thorough. On behalf of Detroiters for Parking Reform, we support this. I have a statement. Real quick, I just wanted to say, too, to Commissioner Russell, there is another permitted area in Cass Park that I was part of for residents. So that exists more than in just Brush Park. It's very refreshing to talk about parking in a progressive manner, and I'm grateful that we can do this tonight. We support this measure on behalf of Detroiters for Parking Reform. It allows housing, more importantly, affordable housing to be built throughout the city. We need to find creative ways like this to cut red tape for the development process, especially for small and mid-sized developers, as has been mentioned. And especially in these lots, which cumulatively have had such a negative impact throughout the city for so many years. These are thousands and thousands of parcels that Detroiters are hamstrung with every day, especially with outdated zoning. And one of the ways that this could be accomplished, as has been mentioned, is by requiring fewer parking spaces for projects that are near high-frequency transit corridors. It makes sense, right? In commercial corridors where places where residents are already just as easily likely to walk to nearby jobs and retail. These changes don't mean there won't be parking. We know that, but it does mean Detroiters will benefit from smarter land use. As much as a third of Detroiters, as has been mentioned, over 200,000 who don't have cars available now. So we're in support of this measure. We hope that it goes forward. I usually wear a shirt that says it's hard finding parking in great places. So remember that. It's about people. It's about housing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And on cue is James Perry.
Hi, my name is Christopher O'Brien. I don't have any prepared remarks, just anecdotes. I moved to Detroit in 2022 at a place in Midtown and got to experience some of the development with the residential parking permit program. When I first moved, it was a very busy block, but it was pretty much a free-for-all. And then 2 years in, we switched to residential parking, and it did fix things in a very dense area. After that, I moved to North Corktown, which is where I currently live. And I had the option to buy a place that had a parking spot for it. But in general, I would say that I'm, very much in favor of this proposal and allowing the market to decide whether any businesses or residential is, if they want to add parking or if there's enough density on the streets, switching over to residential permits is an option, or, even I guess would depend on the area, but a parking garage if the density is that much. But, especially living in North Corktown, where if you go far enough past Cochrane, you get into what's essentially an urban prairie. I'm in favor of pretty much anything that is, increasing density at the fastest rate the city can sustain, and then revisiting if there is not enough parking later on for situations that, we might want to build more, or making transit a more viable option. And with, more of a tax base and more people who would be riding it, hopefully more of a push behind it to add to that as well. So I hope you pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on cue is David Lake.
Hi. Is this working? Hi. Got it? Okay, good. Hi. My name is James Perry, and I'm an Uber driver, so I've been pretty much all over this. What?
Go ahead. No.
I've been pretty much all over. My name is James Perry. I'm an Uber driver, and I've been pretty much all over the city. And sometimes I have mixed feelings when I'm taking someone to a job in retail. Like, I remember picking someone up from a Wendy's and taking him back to a Detroit neighborhood, and I think, that's a huge tax on what is not the highest paying job. And even if people own cars, are fortunate to own cars, it's still a high cost if you don't have. So I want to say I am fully in support of these proposals, because I think this will give an opportunity to bring more jobs to different corners of the city. It will give an opportunity to provide more housing, which means more people will be able to find jobs within either a walking distance or by convenient transit. I'd also like to point out that in the September 12th, 2022 issue of Crane's Detroit Business, Sue Mosey was quoted as saying that Bob Obe Fair, Joe Louis Southern Kitchen, and Supino's Pizza on Woodward near Grand Boulevard needed to get an exemption to open because of the parking minimum. Even though they're on the streetcar line and multiple bus lines, the existing parking ordinance would not have allowed them to open without adding a bunch of parking, of which there was already several lots in the area. So I think that if getting a waiver in that place could help New Center area and Milwaukee Junction, imagine what that could do for more neighborhoods that are also on frequent transit corridors. And I also think it's important to note that it's kind of they kind of complement each other. If you put more housing, mixed-use housing alongside commercial corridors, it's easier to build momentum for better transit on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. On cue, we have Josh Graham.
Good evening. My name is David Alade. I'm the CEO of Century Partners, a local real estate development firm headquartered in Detroit. I'm a proud resident of the Boston Edison neighborhood, and I also have the privilege of serving as the president of READ. READ stands for the Real Estate Association of Developers, and we're effectively an advocacy group for black developers of color working in our city every day. Our membership, we have about 250 members, and many of them are really struggling with the challenges related to development, from financing challenges, legal challenges, demand challenges. Development is becoming increasingly difficult to execute and manage, and this is especially true for most of our members who are focusing on building mostly affordable or naturally occurring affordable housing for our city's residents. We believe these zoning adjustments are very thoughtful. They're data-based, but also common sense changes. These changes have a track record of successfully contributing to development in an equitable way in other cities. And I think we can implement these changes while also preserving the historical design elements that make our neighborhoods unique, and also while increasing accessibility and housing options for all Detroiters. As a personal anecdote, our company, we owned a 10-unit building in Southwest, and the day before we were planning to close on our refinancing for the building, the lender pulled out. And the reason why it pulled out was because our 10-unit building, which was built almost 100 years ago, was in a zone that only allowed to build 8 units. So in the event of a catastrophe, we would not be able to rebuild that same building that was built 100 years ago in that location. And so as a result, we had to cancel that transaction. We lost out on thousands of dollars there. We had to spend thousands of dollars more to rezone that property, and that process was lengthy, caused a lot of frustration, and took a lot of time. With all the challenges already laying in development, we think these zoning changes could really ease some of those issues. From a READ perspective, our members, we love these changes. We would love to even see a bit more flexibility, particularly with regard to the parking requirements, but we believe they're certainly moving a step in the right direction. Many of our members are small-scale developers, and these recommendations, if implemented, will reduce the costs and time required.
Sorry, I got to cut you short.
I thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. On deck is Tom Satch. Sorry if I misspoke that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Graham. I'm a homeowner near Butzel Family Rec Center. My back porch is falling off of my house. Like a lot of my neighbors, our back porches are 100 years old, and they have separate foundations. And so when I applied for a permit, I was told that I can't rebuild my back porch without getting a zoning variance because of the setback requirements and the surface area ratio requirements. And obviously, I was surprised, but I have to fix my back porch. So when I started the process, I paid all those fees, and I talked to my neighbors who all get letters in the mail, and they say, Jacob, why are you tearing your house down and building a new house? And I say, that's you got to look more closely at the letter. I'm just trying to rebuild my porch. Look, and I have to do all of this. And when I heard that the city was going to propose to make these regulations easier, I think that just makes all the sense in the world for homeowners who are just trying to repair their houses to not have to go through the variance process. Thank you.
Thank you. And on deck, we have Sonia Mays. Whenever you're ready.
Yep. Hello, my name is Todd Saxey. I'm founder of Broder Saxey Real Estate and Saxey Construction, and the co-founder of the Detroit Developer Roundtable, represents several Detroit developers. I'm here to say we're strongly in support of the zoning ordinance proposed change, and I kind of want to go macro for a minute. We're glad that somebody's starting to think big and make big choices and make big decisions. You know, perfect is the enemy of great. It may not be perfect. So if we keep spending time to find everything to be perfect, I think it'll just delay the process. So I'd encourage that you move this process along as fast as possible. I will speak as somebody who is a huge Detroit promoter and a lover of Detroit and a supporter of what's happening in the growth of Detroit. This ordinance, frankly, has no impact on my business other than it supports Detroit. We don't actually do single-family or small unit development in the neighborhoods, but we believe it's great for the city. Everyone has spoken about increased population, making it easier to do business in the city. What the gentleman just said to me sitting next to me a moment ago, that kind of breaks my heart when that happens, when I hear how difficult it is to go through the process, whether it be fixing a porch or building a house or doing a duplex or a triplex in a neighborhood. Let's push to try to make it really, really easy to do that, whether you're a big developer or just a one person who wants to do something special in the city. Let's make it really, really easy. I think this is a step in the right direction. And I'll end by saying again, perfect is the enemy of great. If things can get changed, already made a comment, I think the chair made a comment that let's hope this grows in 2,500 units. Let's hope that we have that problem, and then we can address all the growth and the hundreds of thousands of people moving in the city. I hope I'm standing here 10 years from now talking about how can we address that problem. That would be spectacular. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Ms. Mays.
Great, thank you. Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am here both as the CEO of the nonprofit real estate development company Develop Detroit and as a representative of READ. Mr. Alade told you a little bit about READ. Many of you have seen me here before, and so you probably know that I both live and work in Detroit. There are few people who are as passionate as I about housing and the future of our residents in Detroit. Like so many others, I care deeply about whether our neighborhoods remain places where Detroiters can thrive. I am here in full support of these zoning changes as I see them as an important step to make sure that as many Detroiters as possible can afford to stay in the city they call home. My Develop Detroit team has spent the last 10 years fighting to build as much affordable housing as possible. While we have had some successes, the cold, hard reality is that it is too hard and takes too long, and it's way too expensive to build quality housing in Detroit, especially in the neighborhoods. This dynamic is putting real pressure on renters and long-term residents, as both Detroit rental rates and home prices are outpacing the metro area and national inflation. The data is showing us that increasingly our least affluent neighbors are responding to these housing cost pressures by leaving Detroit, even as our overall population has finally started to grow. We should continue to approach our collective affordability problem with the utmost urgency. We need to make it easier to build the kind of homes that Detroiters already live in, duplexes, fourplexes, townhomes, and to rebuild on the thousands of underutilized vacant lots that dot our city. This is about keeping Detroit accessible, affordable, and livable for the next generation. I applaud you very sincerely for considering this proposal, and I urge you to support these changes. This is a real opportunity to take a step toward protecting the affordability in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the in-person cards that I have. We will switch to the Zoom platform. Mr. Gulak or Ms. Perales, one of you checking the panelists?
Mr. Chair, I can help.
Mr. Jeffries.
Our first speaker is Bill Cheek.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thanks. My name is Bill Cheek from North Corktown. I'll email my original comments, but I'm so outraged by the city's presentation that I wanted to say some additional things live. Are the upcoming engagement meetings going to include this level of detail? Because we got the dumbed down version for the peasants. Most of the presentation we saw tonight was completely different from the one we were blindsided with last week. And there's still no acknowledgement of the Pandora's box of unintended consequences that this could unleash. Are you kidding that part of this presentation was cherry picking the already manipulated data from the quote framework plans? I attended those meetings for Corktown, and that entire process was a sham designed as fake engagement to create a big development plan for our neighborhood. I come from a community who formed a neighborhood association, then spent 6 years creating neighborhood design guidelines, cultural amenity plans, sustainable development plans, and open space plans. Then the planning department and Perkins and Will took it, balled it up, threw it all in the trash, and have proceeded to destroy our neighborhood in the time since. This is simply going to accelerate the process of gobbling up every single available lot and eliminate our voice in our community. Oh, and those cute little houses the city claims will get built, we're not getting any of that. We're getting the modular crap that even the suburbs don't want anymore. So do us all a favor. Don't try to scam the Planning Commission with this public relations nonsense when the people who know better see it happening and are happy to call it out. And by the way, our neighbors don't get the opportunity to purchase their side lot for green space or anything else. Because of the development hold in place in North Corktown since 2015, only developers can purchase those side lots. 120 residents engaged in a city of 650,000. Good work so far. I mean, somebody should win an award for that one. This was an embarrassment. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Greg Mannigan.
Hello, welcome.
They should be able to speak now.
Hello. Going once, twice, 3 times. Mr.
Chair,
Jeffries,
I believe they just
want to go to
Greg
the next
just needs
person
to
and
unmute. If they can unmute their device.
let's go to the next person and bring them back at the end.
Okay. The next speaker is Stephanie Osterlin. Stephanie, you should be able to speak.
Hello, welcome.
Yes, hi. Sorry, I had to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Stephanie Osterlin. I'm the executive director at Habitat for Humanity Detroit. And on behalf of Habitat, I wanted to provide our support for the proposal to make these updates for zoning and coding. For those of you not familiar, Habitat for Humanity has been building, rehabbing, and repairing homes in the city of Detroit for nearly 40 years, and we've served over 500 homeowners. Our main goal is to help increase and preserve the supply of safe, affordable housing. Primarily, we've been in Morningside, District 4 for over a decade. We support this proposal for really 2 main reasons. One, as an affordable housing provider and an advocate, we want to advocate for efforts that will create multiple types of housing to help offset the housing deficit. At Habitat, we receive over 100 applications per month for our home ownership program. And with this high volume, working collaboratively with the city and other community partners, we can address this deficit. The second issue is the new zoning proposals will allow more variance for constructing a housing unit. eliminating any barriers is helpful to single-family developers. The current process for asking for a variance adds quite a bit of length to an already complicated process. This is really problematic for nonprofits who utilize grant funding to help offset high construction costs. Grants always have a timeline, and that doesn't always line up with what we need in extensions and exemptions and variances simply to build a single family home. Additionally, due to the building limits, in order for us to build our current floor plan, which is 1,100 square foot ADA accessible ranch, we have to acquire 2 adjacent parcels, have them merged, and build one home over both parcels. In addition, it's difficult to find 2 adjacent parcels that are buildable and have
Sorry,
clean title.
I apologize. We got to cut you short. But really briefly before we jump, I want to make sure we captured that one because I think that came up before, Director Todd, maybe trying to combine lots and that whole process. So just make sure that gets captured.
Mr. Chair, and if you may, certainly encourage the speaker to get in touch with us.
Okay. Yes. Stephanie, I believe that was the name. We do want to encourage you to reach back out to staff in regards to your comment. That's one we've heard a few times. I just want to make sure we capture that because we had to cut you short. Mr. Jeffries.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Eddie Carrington. They should be able to speak.
Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Edward Carrington, a Rosedale Park resident and founder of Flux City, a real estate development firm headquartered right here in the great city of Detroit. And I am here in support of this zoning ordinance. Detroit is at a critical moment. Our population is growing, and that's a good thing, but too many longtime Detroiters are still struggling to find quality housing that they can afford, and too many vacant lots still remain empty instead of becoming homes. And too many of our commercial corridors specifically lack the energy that thriving neighborhoods deserve. So this ordinance specifically expanding housing options in R2 zones, allowing multifamily development by right on commercial corridors, making it easier to rebuild our vacant lots, and introducing common sense parking flexibility is exactly the kind of thoughtful policy that puts Detroiters first. These updates will create more choices for families, seniors, and young people who want to stay in or move into the neighborhoods that they love. They will help developers such as myself turn these vacant properties into housing that matches the character of our blocks while keeping costs down so residents aren't priced out. Parking reform in particular will remove unnecessary expenses that are passed on to renters and homeowners, which and while still giving projects the flexibility to meet real community needs. And by allowing multifamily housing on our commercial corridors, we can breathe new life to the places where Detroiters already shop and or want to shop, work, gather, ultimately creating walkable, vibrant streets. So in summary, this is an investment into Detroit's future and the people who call this city home. I urge you to move forward with this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair, the next speaker is Richard.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, a lot of people who have spoken previously to me have made some excellent points. I, too, am in great support of these proposals. I should say I'm a resident of the New Center area, District 5, and one thing that I think maybe has not been touched on, or at least not touched on enough, is the importance of mixed-use housing. I personally live in a mixed-use area, and I really love it. When I speak to both folks who have moved into Detroit, such as myself, as well as folks who have moved out of Detroit, a lot of their gripes or what they like about Detroit is either not enough or they enjoy living in mixed use housing. I love being able to walk down to the pizza place that is just a 5-minute walk away, or hang out with my friends at the bar that's maybe a 7-minute walk away. So I think the proposal, specifically point number 3, that allows more multifamily buildings on commercial corridors is really, really beneficial. And I also hope that, as an addendum, that more um, commercial corridors for which this would apply to uh, can be built and rezoned. And yeah, I will submit the rest of my time to the council. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Adam Cook. Adam should be able to speak.
I do.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of this body today. My name is Adam Cook. I'm a resident of District 6. I wholeheartedly support the proposed zoning changes as presented at the start of this meeting, at minimum. In truth, I would submit that the parking minimum should be eliminated entirely. Give the people that are looking for housing the option to choose housing that does not require them to pay into an extremely costly parking lot or structure that they will never use. But allow me to be blunt. I find it absurd that any Detroiter would oppose these rather modest zoning changes, given that it is already extremely difficult to capture investments broadly in the city of Detroit that respects the present and future of all Detroiters. Housing access is a fundamental component that this city desperately needs, something that has the potential to benefit every Detroiter. We have zero chance to collectively advance this city without ample housing access. Zero. Some perverse notion of preserving historical character when there was an opportunity to build more housing does not even rate when there are Detroiters who are struggling to make rent or are unhoused. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is David G. Be able to speak, David.
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to express my support for the new changes. I think anything that the city can do to lower the parking minimums is a good thing. I live in the new center neighborhood, and there's a lot of vacant parking lots, and there's a few vacant lots that I think could be developed. And I think anything that the Planning Commission can do to make it easier for people to build more dense property on those lots is a good thing. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Rebecca Rooks. Rebecca, you can speak.
Hello, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I am a resident of District 6. I'm calling in today to voice my support for these amendments. All of these are much needed to help reduce barriers to development, keep on pace with cities across the nation, and combat the housing affordability crisis. They can help Detroit grow inclusively by reducing displacement. I think we need to send a clear message to those interested in developing in Detroit and living in Detroit that we have space for them in our communities and that we want them here, and that we want to create communities that can support transit, corner grocery stores, childcare, schools, and other vital services. I also believe parking minimums should be eliminated altogether in order to further reduce barriers to development and achieve the goals stated previously. This is also about remaining competitive with what other cities are doing across the nation and even across the state. I have a lot of respect for the planners that have spoken today, but I do also agree that developers are better positioned to decide on how much parking is needed to serve their needs. And I'd also like to say that I would like to see accessory dwelling units allowed by right in all the zoning districts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Ross Shaw. Ross should be able to speak.
Hello,
Hello,
welcome.
can I be heard?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ross Shaw. I am a resident in District 5 in the Northwest Goldberg neighborhood. I just want to say I strongly encourage the adoption of all the proposed changes and echo other commenters urging these changes to simply be a minimum from which changes can even go further from. These changes will go towards making Detroit a more walkable, create more walkable, thriving areas of the city, and thus a more attractive place to live. Not only for existing residents who don't have the ability to drive a car or afford a car, but also for new residents who are interested in living in areas that can be car-free and access necessities, retail, and entertainment all within walking distance. I look forward to a future Detroit where my block is filled with families and multifamily buildings, and I'm in walking distance to a neighborhood cafe, grocery store, or restaurant, and being able to get around the city quickly and easily without a car. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Josh Lorkey. Josh should be able to speak.
Hi, hi Planning Commission. My name is Josh Lurkey. I'm a resident of the North End neighborhood, right across the street from a fair number of blocks zoned as R2. I wanted to say I really love the changes proposed and hope they go through. However, I don't think they go far enough. I think we should work to eliminate parking minimums as a whole in all zones, including R2. Developers can still build parking if need be, but ultimately we should not force buildings to provide parking if their owners don't feel they need it. Doing so reduces the number and scope of projects and locks individual residents and small developers out of development opportunities. I think small live-over work buildings or small commercial uses like restaurants, cafes, and light retail should be allowed by right in R2 zones, particularly on street corners or on minor collector streets not currently zoned for business. These small neighborhood uses are part of the needs of residential zones and therefore should be allowed in them. Lastly, setback requirements should be further reduced and lot area coverage maximums further increased. We should strive to have a zoning code that allows buildings with existing or historic dimensions to be built on the same size lots that they were originally constructed on before zoning was enacted. You should not have to combine lots anywhere in the city like they did behind my house in order to build housing. All of these changes would help decrease the costs and delays of construction for small residents and small developers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Greg Sivvy. He should be able to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Greg. I am a resident and homeowner in Corktown. I also want to express my support for all of the proposals that were outlined today. I speak as a resident and a homeowner, but also in whatever capacity I can for those who would like to be but aren't able to. I know many people who would like to live in my neighborhood. I love my neighborhood. I love Corktown. I think that it's one of the areas where we benefit from some of the things that are proposed here, many of them historical, grandfathered in, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, live over business kinds of development. But we know that a lot of those are really hard to develop now. And I feel lucky that I was able to find a place that works for me. And I know many people who have been looking literally for years that would love to live here, and there's just not enough housing. And yet there's still lots of empty lots, plenty of large empty parking lots. So I, as a resident and homeowner, would like to see more housing, more residents, easier, cheaper development, more transit, fewer of those empty lots, less dedicated parking in the high density areas, more walkable streets. And I also would voice support for ADUs to be added and other opportunities to, continue pushing this further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, two more speakers. The first is John Willie. John, you should be able to speak.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is John Wiley. I'm a resident of North Corktown in District 6. I also work as an attorney with a lot of commercial developers in the city. I would just like to add that some of the biggest delays I see with projects where you have lenders willing to lend, you have builders willing to build, is getting through the administrative process of combining parcels, getting variances, and doing all of the administrative burden that we're talking about lessening here. I think that would go a long way with increasing project speed and getting more developments in. And then, anyone that works in commercial development knows that time kills projects. Housing is an absolute supply and demand issue that we're having right now. We need to increase the supply. It's as simple as that to meet the demand if Detroit wants to continue to be a growing city. I'd also just like to add with regards to parking, I'm a college graduate of the last 10 years. The amount of people that I know who have moved to cities like Chicago and other cities that have way tougher times with parking than Detroit. And none of them have ever said, I would love to move to the city, but where am I going to park? They want to move to the city because there's housing. They want to move to the city because there's jobs, there's activities, there's things to do. Parking is convenient. When it's convenient, it's great, but it's not something that we should let dictate our city. Just the convenience of parking right outside of a store or a restaurant, that's a convenience you get in a rural area. That's something that urban areas are designed to go without. So I'd just like to echo what everyone else said. I'm very supportive of the changes here, and I would like to see these changes made, and we continue to make changes that makes it easier to build for housing, makes it easier to open small businesses, and makes the city continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the last speaker again is Greg Manigan. Greg, you should be able to speak.
Hello, welcome back. All right, Mr. Greg, if you are there, you may have to unmute. All right.
He does look to be unmuted.
He did unmute. Okay.
Can't speak now.
Hello? All right. So he may not be available to speak, but I will say if you are listening, just make sure you reach out to staff, and they'll make sure they collect your input. Does that conclude all of our public comments?
Yes, it does.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing portion of this item. Commissioners, do we have any more questions or comments, staff? Commissioner Esparza, and then Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the team before us, and I know this would follow a separate track and hopefully parallel, but any efforts or conversations regarding financial incentives that would help support these proposed revisions? Any conversations with any lending agencies that would recognize and maybe target certain programs to be supportive of these zoning revisions to help us realize, the outcome of the additional housing stock?
We have not opened those conversations specific to this proposal. Of course, financing is a real and significant challenge in the city. I'm wondering if Amanda has anything to add. I know you shared some context with City Council around our small business ordinance and how the city does or does not work with outside organizations. And if not, that's okay. I just wanted to make the opportunity for you.
I was just going to say, I think the specific question was whether or not financial incentives were tied to this specific legislation, and the answer is no, but separate. Is that the question? Just so.
I was wondering if there's been separate conversations internally within the group, whether there are financial incentives not provided by the city, but maybe some conversations could be had with lending agencies that would be supportive of these zoning revisions if they are passed and would help fuel, their realization. And if I recall correctly, when I read the announcement of our COO, I think his past life was in the banking industry. So I'm curious whether there's been any conversations based on that type of history and background.
Well, you drive a hard bargain, Commissioner. No, in candor, we have not approached lending agencies specifically around this proposal. I'm happy to talk with my colleagues inside the administration about whether there's anything we can do on that front.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Lewis.
This is a land bank question, and so, but I would like to staff, if we can get this answer, again, as the chair indicated, prior to voting on this matter, and if we can get the answer prior to our return in September, or as soon as possible. Bill Cheek, I believe his name was, indicated that the side lots, I believe in Woodbridge, are on hold for developers. And I would like to know what communities are involved in terms of side lots being on hold for future development. Again, my concern is if we move this forward and there are families out there that perhaps want to build a unit for a child or a grandchild or whatever it might be, that they are afforded the same opportunity as the developers, and that certainly if a resident is next to a vacant lot, that resident should have some type of right of first refusal. The other thing I would like to just kind of speak to is we talked about the multiple modes of public transit, and we are looking at transit as it is today, assuming that these structures, if this passes, will be around the next 30, 50 years. What do we anticipate, given driverless cars, possibly electric driverless cars? What do we anticipate mass transit to be? Maybe 10, 15 years from now, parking is no longer a question. Maybe 10, 15 years from now, there is some electric car picking up grandma from her house rather than grandma waiting at a bus stop. So I think that maybe a little more forward thinking as relates to transit. I saw, the Musk Company, and maybe it might not be the best example because the jury's still out in terms of these underground tunnels. I think there's one in Las Vegas, one coming up in Nashville. And I guess what I'm saying is let's look more forward. We have to deal with transit and parking today, but given that these buildings will probably be around 50 years from now, what does that transit look like tomorrow? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Harrison.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. One of the things that I heard in a few of our commenters was specific to vacant lots also, like reducing the number of vacant lots. And the thought occurred to me regarding the concern or challenge we also deal with concerning parking or turning surface level, folks turning empty lots into surface level parking. Has there been any consideration around how you might address that challenge if parking requirements are reduced and there's individuals who are like parking either on some of that vacant land or folks maybe using that vacant land as parking for parking? What's in place in order to ensure that you get development on those lots instead of surface level parking, which might bring up a different concern?
Yep, so let me speak to one element of this, and then I'm going to ask Director Todd to confirm my understanding is correct on another, which is if we're talking about kind of vacant residential lots, my belief is that commercial parking or surface parking would be either entirely prohibited or at least conditional on those lots. Yeah. So I believe the opportunity for kind of spillover there, that would be pretty limited by our current zoning code. The other aspect that I would flag from a more programmatic perspective is actually the city's done a blitz over the last probably year since the mayor's last State of the City speech on parking on not just vacant land, but illegal parking in the neighborhoods. A lot of, you pass houses that have 8 cars on the lot, the engine's out of one. So DPD actually weekly reports how many of those cars they have towed. So that is a really big blight enforcement priority for us, and that would certainly remain the case throughout our time. Does that get at what you were asking?
It addresses part of it. What about in those commercial areas where like sort of about conversion of empty lots, those areas that may not sort of development may be considered, but they're sort of owned. How do we restrict that? How do we
Excuse me. Through the chair to Commissioner Harrison, I want to make sure I understood. You said to restrict in that example? Or otherwise try to...
The goal here, what I've heard, is we want to incentivize development as opposed to folks using it for another market use, which is, hey, you can park here if there's parking restrictions. So that's really the crux of my question. Yeah. And the other concern was what was addressed related to folks parking on
So certainly you describe a situation that it exists across town to a certain extent, but is quite prevalent downtown, where parking being what it is, creates that opportunity for someone to come in and not necessarily use the land for its highest and best use, but certainly use it for something that is economically beneficial to them as a property owner. Certainly in those situations that you're describing out in the neighborhood where we would have, and really no different than downtown, that would be a commercial standalone lot.
Thank you.
Again, not necessarily a highest best use of the land, but as we try to figure out how to balance need and opportunity, as some have said, if we get rid of parking mins and really let the market determine, that's when such property then maybe becomes even more in play to the extent that it is already existing and functioning in that way in an area that has the need, and maybe then allows other property to then be developed because it exists. Different permutations, certainly on that sort of scenario in terms of what could happen. But again, I think we're still talking about market circumstances. So where parking can be done on a commercial basis would still be eligible, for such based upon the zoning ordinance. I think we can try to look at ways where maybe we could control that. Again, we're moving in a slightly different direction in that regard. Versus a standalone commercial lot versus that which is accessory, but we can look at it. My wheels are spinning as I'm thinking through different scenarios based upon your question.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Any more comments? Am I right? No. Okay. I had a comment and then I asked for more comments and I forgot the comment. It'll come back. It was relatively minor. So moving forward, can you kind of give us some next steps so we can close this item out?
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, it came back to me. I didn't mean to cut you off. And this will kind of lead into what you're closing. If there is an appetite, and I'm hearing that there's a lot of support for various aspects of the amendment, and I'm also hearing there are various aspects that I think the commission would like more information about. So when this comes back, if there are areas or portions of the ordinance that needs more time, if we could find a way to segregate those, and if there are things that, we think it's a slam dunk today, let's find a way to aggregate those so we can at least get things going And then if we need another month or so to do legal or X, Y, and Z, we can do that, but still be progressive and keep things moving. I think that's an option that we might want to consider when this comes back in a month or so. And Director Todd, can you close us out, please?
We're happy to follow that and all the other direction received from the commission, and working with our colleagues, get the outstanding questions answered, and have the other parties who have been requested either respond with answers to those to the questions that were raised, or to be present at our next meeting. Going forward, as was indicated by
Andy is okay.
Steve, and I don't want to do that in the formal session. Andy, our deputy COO, as she's indicated, we do look to do as much more community engagement over the next month as possible. Also, during that time, we're going to continue the work that we were doing to further refine the regulations that are before you, to look at the best paths for adding in the additional items, and again, try to fine-tune things even further based upon some of the commentary that we received, again, from commissioners as well as the public. So we would anticipate that you will certainly get, if nothing else, a status report on your next meeting, which is the 4th, and then the following meeting, that second meeting in September, hopefully returning at that point in time. And we will do our very best to hopefully get as many, if not all, of these questions really answered by the 4th, so that we can have a way forward, particularly given your last suggestion, Mr. Chair. If there are those things that are a slam dunk and we can get them going, let's get those going. And if there are other things that, again, do require additional information, that there's still questions or concerns, or that require further refinement, further manipulation. But we look to return back before you on the 4th of September, again, with at least a status report, if not something more.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you. Looking forward to seeing you on the 4th. All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on through our agenda, next we have public comment. Similar to our public hearing, it's an opportunity for residents and participants to provide input and comments on items related or unrelated to the agenda. The floor is pretty open. We will acknowledge comments in a similar fashion. If you are here in person and want to provide public comment, you can get staff a yellow comment card, and then they will bring those to the front, and we'll acknowledge you in that fashion. And if you are participating virtually and would like to provide input, you can raise your hand within the Zoom platform, and we will acknowledge you similarly and bring you to participate. With that, we will open the public comment. And are there any additional public comment cards in the audience?
Mr. Chair, there are not.
Thank you. And do we have any virtual hands raised in the Zoom platform?
Mr. Chair, at this time, we do not have any hands raised.
Okay. As there are no public commenters here in the audience or in Zoom, we will close the public comment portion of the agenda, and we will continue to unfinished business. We have one unfinished business item, and this is the consideration of the request of the Detroit Land Bank Authority in conjunction with the Detroit City Planning Commission as a co-petitioner to rezone property located at 4838 Trumbull, where a PD zoning classification is shown, to an R5 medium-density residential zoning classification, in addition to the properties located at 4830 Trumbull, 4827 and 4827 Lincoln, where a PD planned development zoning classification is shown, to an SD1 special development small-scale mixed-use zoning classification. And Ms. Perales, good evening.
Good evening.
You will be helping us out this evening.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it. Whenever you're ready, you can proceed.
Thank you. And if I may share my screen.
Yes, you may.
Oh, and you guys can come forward. Our petitioners are here with us. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dolores Prowse, part of the City Planning Commission staff. And if you have me introduce yourselves.
Mark Jones, Planning Manager.
Rob Lynn, DLBA.
Thank you. And we're here regarding the 4830 Trumbull proposed rezoning. This is the request of the Detroit Land Bank and the City Planning Commission to rezone the following properties located at 4838 Trumbull from a PD plan development to an R5 medium density residential. 4830, which will be a split zone parcel from a PD to an R5 and an SD1 zoning classification, and 4827 Lincoln from a PD to an SD1 zoning classification. To reorient ourselves, we are located in District 6. And just a brief background, as we heard this presentation prior, this was a part of the University City 2 urban renewal area. Between the 1960s and 70s, this was a redevelopment plan that was located in the Woodbridge neighborhood. University City 2 included a variety of different complexes, such as Adams Field and the Mathai Athletic Complex, but was halted due to community opposition back in the 70s. The subject parcels were part of Parcel 3 originally, which were intended for a mixed-use residential and community center. However, only a portion was developed, which is present-day Freedom House. The rest has remained vacant for over 50 years. The purpose of this rezoning request is to support small-scale mixed-use development and affordable housing aligned with pedestrian and transit-oriented development goals. The development will be pursued via a formal RFP process jointly managed by both the Land Bank and the city's Housing and Revitalization Department. The zoning also will permit Citadel of Faith to continue using their parking for church-related purposes. This is currently not allowed with the PD zoning that is currently located on their parking lot parcel. The City Planning Commission is co-petitioning by including 4838 Trumbull, which is the parcel owned by Citadel of Faith, to ensure lot consistency. Again, with the current PD zoning, it is restricted to the University Village plan and only those original plans, which were a 400 to 600 unit, multi-family housing development of townhouses, garden, and mid-rise formats. And it would have to be between those 400 and 600 units and nothing less than that. Regarding just the lot combination, as a quick refresher, the lot was combined in error. 4830 was mistakenly used as the combined parcel's primary address. The intended address was 4822 Lincoln, and the intended inclusion was supposed to be 4827 Lincoln, as we can see on this small diagram to the right of us. The half owned by Citadel of Faith and half by the Land Bank is the 4830 Trumbull site, which is going to include that split zone. The Land Bank planned to retain this parcel separately for a potential transfer to Citadel of Faith, but in error, the lot was combined. But the next steps, the Land Bank is working on splitting 4830 Trumbull from the combined parcel, but in the interim, 4830 will be split zoned, which requires zoning to an R5 separate from the SD1 zoning classification for the rest of 4830 Trumbull. With our surrounding land use, to the north is R5, developed as a religious institution. To the east is a planned development, multifamily residential. To the south is also planned development, multifamily residential, and to the west we have R3 and SD1 developed as single-family and two-family homes, as well as vacant land. According to our future land use map, the proposed rezoning site is located in the Jeffries neighborhood and is designated as low to medium residential, and the PDD found that the proposed rezoning is generally consistent with the area's future land use designation. Regarding community outreach and feedback, this is prior to original hearing with the City Planning Commission. The partners previously engaged were the Woodbridge Neighborhood Development Corporation and the Woodbridge Citizen Council. The Land Bank went out and flyered throughout the neighborhood, including Canfield, Scripps Park, and that Woodbridge Community Development Corporation's bulletin board. There was also a presentation that was hosted by the Woodbridge Citizen Council in March 2025, where they were able to get feedback from residents regarding concerns which were rotating mainly around parking availability. However, Land Bank staff did clarify that parking and design details would be addressed post-RFP design process. Regarding community feedback, overall, it remained positive, where it does solve that long-term vacancy issue, where this land has maintained vacant for over 50 years. It also would support affordable housing, which seemed like which appeared to be a positive within that community. However, one letter of concern was submitted by a resident noting those same parking concerns. Regarding engagement with Citadel of Faith, meetings were had with Citadel of Faith and their leadership regarding the rezoning. Citadel of Faith has maintained that 4830 Trumbull and 4827 Lincoln address since 2012 regarding just general mowing and maintenance. However, the land bank does provide 5 rough cuts per year on those properties. The Citadel of Faith does support the rezoning of their own parcel, 4838 Trumbull, to R5. However, they are still hesitant to support the rezoning of the land bank specific parcels. Currently, their position is of the land bank is that they are willing to sell parcels to Citadel of Faith via a formal RFP process if the rezoning occurs for a mixed-use affordable housing. However, that has not occurred, or those types of things are not in the favor of Citadel of Faith, where they are not interested in developing any type of mixed-use affordable housing at this time. Regarding engagement and our public hearing results, on June 26th, the City Planning Commission had a hearing where a total of 7 individuals did speak in opposition to the proposed rezoning, where their main concerns highlighted their support for Citadel of Faith for requiring the lots and ownership and maneuvering ownership to community in support of Citadel of Faith's potential takeover of those lots. The Commission did request additional engagement specifically with Citadel of Faith prior to reconsidering this vote. Since then, community has responded to this rezoning, where City Planning Commission staff have received 9 letters of support, 8 from neighborhood residents within the Woodbridge area and 1 from the Woodbridge Neighborhood Development Council, a local nonprofit. Additionally, the land bank did do follow-up engagement with Citadel of Faith on July 11th, where the land bank did meet with leadership to discuss the following parcels: 4830 regarding the parking lot portion, and 4827 Lincoln, the parcel directly behind that lot. The land bank did express willingness to sell both parcels to Citadel of Faith, and also provided Citadel of Faith the direct linkage to the land bank's disposition team and their contact info. However, to date, no application has been submitted by Citadel of Faith to purchase those lots. Citadel of Faith also reiterated their intent to pursue adverse possession after discussion with CPC staff and the land bank that this is not a feasible route to pursue. The land bank also connected Citadel of Faith's leadership to their legal team, who clarified that Citadel of Faith leadership is not permitted under Michigan law to do an adverse possession claim, and that was clarified through land bank's legal team as well. Regarding our planning considerations, under Section 50-30-70 of the Detroit zoning code, or zoning ordinance, apologies, there lists 8 priorities, there lists 8 approval criteria which zoning map amendments must be based upon. The following are relevant criteria with our analysis. So the first, whether that the proposed amendment is consistent with the master plan and the stated purpose of this chapter. Our analysis is that the master plan designates the site as medium density residential. The rezoning to an SD1 classification aligns with this designation, allowing for residential, business, and commercial uses suited to the area. The next, whether the proposed rezoning will have any significant adverse impacts on the natural environment, including air, water, soil, wildlife, and vegetation, and with respect to anticipated changes in noise in regard to stormwater management. Our analysis is that it is not anticipated that the proposed rezoning will have any significant adverse impacts on the natural environment. In regards to the suitability of the subject property for the existing zoning classification and proposed zoning classification, our analysis is that the proposed rezoning is suitable for the subject property and is consistent with the adjacent properties and others in the immediate vicinity. The subject area is developed with low-density mixed uses. The proposed rezoning would allow the subject property to be redeveloped by an RFP by the land bank without the plan development restrictions. and whether the proposed rezoning will create an illegal spot zone. Our analysis is that it would not create an illegal spot zone. Aligning with the master plan, the proposed rezoning will not introduce an incompatible or a disruptive land use. And with that, staff's recommendation is that we approve the proposed rezoning under the section 50-3-70 of the 2019 Detroit City Code. And with that, I will open it up to questions for myself or for our petitioners.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pradas, for that presentation. I'll start to my left. Commissioner Lewis.
First, I'll say I'm very familiar with the Citadel of Faith. And I'm not sure, in your write-up, you talk about the existing parking.
Mm-hmm.
How does that, I'm sorry, maybe I missed something.
Through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, could you clarify your question regarding the parking?
That they would continue using an existing parking lot, or is that a part of the Detroit Land Bank's land?
So through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, the parking lot currently is in a split ownership. One half of the parking lot is owned by Citadel of Faith, and then the other half is owned by the Detroit Land Bank.
And that's the entire improved parking lot that you're talking about?
Yes.
Who did the improvement?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Do you know who did the improvement on the land?
No, I do not know who did the improvement on the land itself. But regarding the actual zoning of the land, it is also zoned PD, so a parking lot cannot even exist there.
Okay, but the Citadel has been there. Do we know when the Citadel was built?
So through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, the building of Citadel of Faith, I believe, was built in 1925.
Well before zoning.
Yes.
So that parking lot could have been there well before zoning.
Yes, it definitely could have.
Again, I am very familiar with the Citadel of Faith, and if you're talking about the parking just to the rear of the auxiliary building and adjacent to the lots,
Mm-hmm.
it is exactly to the rear of the building. Will they be able to retain those lots?
So through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, the property that Citadel of Faith owns, they will fully be able to retain. The land bank also is wanting to ensure that the other half of the parking lot that they own, that they could transfer over, whether that be through purchasing of the other half of the lot, or if there's an alternate transfer method that they are discussing on their own. However, the parcel itself, being zone PD, does not allow them to technically park there. And what we're doing as City Planning Commission staff is rezoning their lot to R5 as a whole to match the entirety of their development.
So was the Citadel itself zone PD at one time? The entire parcel?
So through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, no, the Citadel of Faith was not was not zone PD at all. It came up to the parking lot, where the parking lot and the rest of those parcels were zone PD, but it stopped right at where the building is.
Okay, I guess are we talking about the lot directly behind the auxiliary building on Trumbull? It faces, I believe it faces Trumbull. There is, I believe, what looks like an alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about those lots
Yes.
that are directly behind the building.
Yes, through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, those two lots, which are their parking lot, that is the one that we are discussing. That is zone PD. And yes, I can show the image if it helps as well.
In any event, the Detroit Land Bank is willing to relinquish those lots to the Citadel?
Yes, through the chair, we met with Dr. Bronner, the board chair of the church, earlier this month, and asked her to apply so we could begin that process.
And the response was affirmative?
The church has not yet applied for the properties. But our goal is to reunite the church with that parking lot.
Okay, and this, the change in zoning will not, and as I understand it, there's going to be a RFP once the zoning is changed through HRD or PNDD. Or is the land bank going to do a RFP?
So through the chair, our goal is to do it in concert with HRD, but since it's a land bank site, it would be the land bank sponsoring it with HRD's help. But to your first question, the church has indicated they want to do some green space projects, and we asked them to apply so that we could understand the scope of their needs, so we can try to accommodate both projects.
Okay. I'm sorry to my colleagues here, but this is important to me. Is it in the land bank's MOU to partner with HRD to place RFPs on land?
Through the chair, I'll certainly yield to Mr. Lynn on the specifics, but the MOU does require that the land bank work with the city, and typically that is through PNDD or HRD when it comes to issues of land, some of the land disposition, and certainly anything over 10 lots actually has to come back to the city for approval.
Right. This is the first time I've heard of the Detroit Land Bank issuing an RFP. Is that a part of the MOU that enables them to issue an RFP? Or would Planning and Development issue the RFP and then the Detroit Land Bank, or is the Detroit Land Bank becoming a development arm of the city of Detroit? But I know those are questions that probably cannot be answered at this time, but you can see where my mind is going. So this change in zoning does not impact Citadel's ability to buy that land, nor does it impact who is leading on the RFP or what entity is the lead on the RFP.
Through the chair to Commissioner Lewis, no. The rezoning allows the land to now be legally used for something.
Okay.
At present, it can't legally be used for anything, essentially, because of the limitations of the PD. So this will free it up for the portion that the church already owns, for the portions that they desire, and for the land bank to advance it for a future development via the RFP.
But once the zoning is done, it will not come back to this body again, correct?
That is correct. Unless something unforeseen is needed. But at this point in time, no, we do not foresee that would happen.
And this is an SD1, special development.
Through the chair, yes.
And I don't recall seeing this before, but I guess it came and I probably was absent. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Harrison? Good. Commissioner Esparza?
No, I'm fine.
Vice Chair Udabi? Commissioner Daniels?
I was just going to say that it's a good presentation you get, as usual, and that if there are no other questions, I move approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Bennett? All right. It looks like there was a motion and a support on the table. All in support of the motion. That happened so fast, it caught me off guard. Do we need staff's recommendation or anything, or just Ms.
She provided it.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's so quick. All right. All in support of approving the motion to approve staff's recommendation, indicate your support with the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all in opposition, sign of nay. All right. There are no nays. The motion passes. Thank you. Can you close this item out with some next steps, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the next steps is that staff will be sending items to Public Works to review the legal descriptions. From there, a draft ordinance will be sent to law. Once law receives that and we receive the ordinance from law, a finalized report will be sent to council where a public hearing will be set and had at PED. Once that is had, it will be sent to council for approvals or for voting approvals or denials.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Looking forward to it. All right. Thank you. All right. That concludes all of our unfinished business items. Looks like we do not have any new business. Director Todd, do you have any staff reports?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, forego the staff report, provide you something in writing over the course of the recess, giving you a sense of what you should expect for the remainder of the year.
Okay, thank you. And members, do we have any member reports? I see none. Communications?
Commissioners, we did receive one communication. I am blanking on the municipality, but as you will recall, we indicated to you, I believe, in May of this year.
We got
June.
We got Southfields.
Yeah,
not
okay,
too
so
long ago.
it was forwarded. Okay, I couldn't remember. Thank you, yes.
It was here last meeting.
Okay, well, then maybe it's the second one. There's it. The second one was Oak Park that we received, where they were also signing off on the proposed master plan amendment that we're looking to bring before you formally, I think in September, for the northern half of the former Rogel Golf Course at Lasser and West 7 Mile.
Okay. All right. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting. It's 8:33.
Wait, 3 minutes.